That's the one thing about our audience. They always want a new guy to break through the glass ceiling.
All you have to do is just be real.
Allow me to reintroduce myself. I am the jabroni beating, pie eating, trailblazing, eyebrow raising, talking is done, you're out of your class, no sleep till Brooklyn, The Rock whips your ass. Woo!
I wish you and King would quit talking.
All right, welcome to episode Around the Ring, episode 64. Today is, what is today? Sunday. Jeez, got all my days mixed up. It's September 18th, 2016. I am one half of your host. My name is Dave Brown. I'm joined with my good friend Floyd Johnson. Floyd, how you doing, sir?
I am doing well, Dave.
Excellent.
Looking forward to the show today. We got a lot to cover.
We do.
Yeah, I was going to say, whenever there's a pay-per-view, there's almost wrestling every day. So it's always a great week when that happens.
That is true. That is true. It's almost, dare I say, too much. I mean, it is.
I did make the point that on the weeks that I can actually watch TNA and I may turn on ROH, it's wrestling every day. And that is a little much. I know it's almost sacrilege to say that as a diehard wrestling fan, but it's like when you have so much content, it's going to set itself up to get redundant at a point.
Exactly. That's like if you, let's say you love chocolate ice cream, but if you have chocolate ice cream every day for breakfast, lunch, and dinner, eventually you're going to say, I never want to have chocolate ice cream again.
Correct.
And it's the same thing with wrestling. And I'm not even going to lie, I've been super busy this week, and I ended up watching the final bit of SmackDown and NXT this morning, and there were parts I was completely zoned out. I fast-forwarded through chunks of it, and so I will be relying on you for some of those parts because, yeah, you have a busy week, and sometimes you're like, really, I just got to get through some of this crap.
I understand.
Well, let's start with the big thing. The thing we left off with last week was the Backlash pay-per-view, SmackDown's first pay-per-view in the brand split era. And let's just start. What were your overall thoughts on this pay-per-view?
Backlash, short pay-per-view I've heard in like 2.5 hours, but I thought that made it amazing. I mean, it's pretty much an A. I don't know what it would have made it an A+, but definitely an A because they used every minute of the show for storytelling, and there was no dead periods or what felt like, other than the beginning, what felt like filler.
Yeah, I agree. I think it was a really, really good show. I don't know if I would give it an A, but I did thoroughly enjoy it. I think the fact that it was only 2.5 hours was a godsend, and I loved. I think it was previous week's episode of Talking Smack when Shane was on, and Renee asked them if they were ever going to go 3 hours, and both Shane and Daniel were adamant. No, they were not at all, not 3 hours, which was made me happy. So seeing this pay-per-view at only 2.5 hours, probably a total of 3 once you count in the match during the pre-show. But it never felt, like there was a lot of filler. And there were things that made you go, huh. But I thought overall it was a good show. It was well paced, and I think what they've done really well with it, just in SmackDown in general, is they know they have a very talented roster, but a very thin roster, and they've done a really good job utilizing everyone in every moment well. And much better than Raw has done. And some of that, I'm sure, has to do with that extra hour that Raw has to fill every week, which is just needs to go away. But let's start off at the beginning of this card. So did you watch the pre-show?
I did. I did watch the pre-show.
Okay. Now, when you watch the pre-show, do you watch all the commentary crap, or do you just watch the matches?
I watch the match. Usually, I've been at work, so I really can't pay attention to everything that they're talking about. So I just focus on the actual wrestling match. Generally a pre-show for what is mostly a TV show seems to make no sense to me. I mean, I think for the big shows like the Survivor Series, Royal Rumble, WrestleMania, that's great. For Backlash, I don't think the pre-show adds anything.
Yeah, I'm right there with you. I'm not someone that is a huge pre-show fan, and most of the time I'm watching these things after the fact. Mm-hmm. So I'm watching them the next day, things like that. And so I'll pull it up and I will fast forward through until the match, watch the match, because most of the time it's the same vignettes we're going to get during the show anyway. And it's a bunch of yammering on by a few people. It's like a couple of these people I like. When Corey Graves is on there, I really like him. I really like Renee Young. I can't stand Jerry Lawler just anymore. He's got to go. Lita is okay. But, yeah, I get...
Booker T is completely his character. If I have to hear "in this business" one more time, I'm going to stab myself. Jerry Lawler... I liked him on commentary. I do not like him. I don't like him in the pre-show. It's just his shtick doesn't really, add to the storyline or take away. It just seems like he's just trying to get himself over. And even though he's Jerry the King Lawler, he really doesn't need to be. And right. Some of his one-liners don't land, and it's pretty awkward, especially when Renee has segue after one of them doesn't land.
Yeah, I will. I mean, if the choice is between Booker T and Jerry Lawler, I'll take Booker T any day of the week. I'm just in general, I'm a big Booker T fan. I've always really liked Booker T a lot. And Jerry Lawler is someone I can just take or leave. I've never been that impressed. Maybe I just haven't seen the right stuff. But I think his time on commentary, there was a time he was really good, and that time is not now. And at this point, he needs to go away, because he is that creepy old man that is hitting on like 14-year-olds. And Renee sometimes the look on her face is, please don't hit on me. It's just, he's creepy.
I've always had the opinion that he has something on Vince, because Vince keeps him around. Like, he's said and done things that WWE would have generally, completely gotten away from, but he still has a job, so I don't really understand.
Yeah, I bet you're right. He probably does have something on Vince. So the first match of the night was Apollo Crews against Baron Corbin. Corbin won with an end of days just that was out of nowhere. I thought this match wasn't bad. It wasn't anything to write home about, but
yeah, for the 15th time I've seen this match this year, wasn't bad.
Exactly.
I saw it felt like 6 times in NXT, and it's been every match since the main roster. It's like they want to push Baron, but they're not really ready to push Baron, so they just have him keep beating Apollo Crews. So.
Well, and Baron's not ready to be pushed. He is, especially, we'll get to this week's SmackDown later, but on Talking Smack, there's just something he's not quite comfortable. I don't know what it is. Something is not gelling yet, and he's got a presence, which I think he's got height and a presence, and that is what has gotten him this far. Because he's not a great talker. From everything you can tell, he's kind of a dick, and I don't know. He's not a terrible worker, but he's not really that good either. So he's certainly no Apollo Crews, and but we'll talk more about them later, because they have another run in on the SmackDown this week. There was a pretty good opening vignette, I thought, and Backlash was in Richmond, Virginia, so kind of sort of Flair country. The show did open with a Shane McMahon, Daniel Bryan in-ring promo. Okay, fine, we could open a show with an in-ring promo. I was kind of hoping not to, but if that's the worst thing that happened in the show, then, we were okay. And then we had the women's title match. So Becky Lynch versus Natalya versus Naomi versus Alexa Bliss versus Carmella versus Nikki Bella. The 6-pack elimination women's title match. And you know what? I really enjoyed this.
Yeah, I thought the match was really well done. I hardly ever know who the agent on the matches are, but they did a really good job of, honestly, I felt like everybody got over in this match.
They did. I thought everyone looked really good. I mean, Alexa Bliss had a code red, for Pete's sake. Who knew that was possible?
Yeah, that was Yes, she's actually very talented, but it's just she's completely WWE trained, and unfortunately that does limit it, how far you can press things.
Right.
But I like that she did that. She pulled that move out of it. She's showing a little more range, and I really dug the Harley Quinn thing that she came out in, the hair and all that stuff. And it seems like she might be going towards that type of character, especially in the match. From her mannerisms, she was just acting kind of crazy, and her against everybody kind of thing.
Yeah, once she turned heel, and I know we talked about this last week, but once she turned heel in NXT, something really, a switch was flipped, and she went from being, oh yeah, she's all right, to being, wow, this girl's really good, because she is so good at that bitchy heel princess character. Because it's not you look at this woman, and it's not much of a stretch to think she was probably a cheerleader bitch in high school. Because and not to say that she's probably a sweet girl. Don't get me wrong, I don't know her from Adam, but as pretty as she is, you know that she was probably one of those girls in high school. And if not, she can certainly play the role, which is what she's been doing. Because
sometimes all it takes is knowing a lot of people like that. And being in the gymnastics cheerleading world, from what I've heard from other people, I've never been in that world. Having the kind of bitchiness, that type of thing, she's probably seen it to mock, or if that's not her.
Right. So we'll go through the eliminations. Naomi eliminated Alexa.
I figured Alexa was going first.
Yeah. One other thing real quick on Alexa. Alexa has one of the best freak-out faces.
Yes, she does, definitely.
And I would say the three best freak-out faces in the industry right now, or at least in WWE, are Alexa Bliss, Tyler Breeze, and Rusev. Because when something doesn't go their way and they just lose it, it's gold. It's just, I love watching them lose their shit.
Yeah, they definitely sell it with their faces. It's honestly, I don't even think about it, but now that you said the three, and I'm kind of imagining them going through, they do really, really well. I mean, back in the day, I used to really love Christian's face when he would do where he would throw a fit or whatever. Mm-hmm. And so I can definitely see, they definitely bring that to the table. I love, like I said, Alexa, her freak out face. And I feel like she's going to a Harley Quinn-esque character. I think that's going to add a lot to it.
I agree. So she was eliminated first. We both figured that was going to happen. Then let's see. Naomi was eliminated by Natalya via the sharpshooter. I was
hoping Naomi won. I know it's probably not going to be a popular opinion. But I really wanted it to be somebody out of nowhere. Yeah. And she has really, really stepped up her game since the comeback. And it looks like they're just letting her be her more than anything. Yeah. It's like the turned up with the feel the glow and the dancing. I think they're just letting her be a turned up version of herself. But I've always thought she was a great worker, and she brings the closer to cruiserweight style to the women's division, which I feel like it was missing. She doesn't fight. She isn't the cookie cutter woman in the WWE.
Yeah. Well, you're not alone. I was listening to one of this week's episodes of Wrestling Soup, and Anthony Missionary Thomas agrees with you. He wanted Naomi to win as well. I think she will get a shot at the title at some point. I mean, the roster, there's not a ton of people on there, and unless they want to have each person hold the belt for a really long time, at some point, at least the top tier ladies are all going to get a run with the belt. And at some point, I've got to hope that Naomi gets a run with the belt. She was never a Divas champion as far as I know, so she deserves it. Like you said, she's a good worker. This new character is fantastic because it's just her. It's her being her. She seems like a super nice person. I don't watch Total Divas. I have so much better things to do with my time than to watch that. But from everything I've heard, she's just a decent person. And so, yeah, I hope at some point, I don't think she'll be the one to beat Becky, but what would be cool is if because I suspect what's going to happen is Becky's going to keep the title for a while. They're going to build up Eva Marie. Eva Marie's going to get some kind of fluke win over Becky, keep the title for a while, and then maybe Naomi should be the one to beat Eva Marie. That would be, I think, if they had long-term planning, which we know they probably don't, but if they did, that would be a good long-term plan.
Yeah, that I completely agree. I would like to see how Carmella gets over as a heel. I could see if she really start booed and getting some heel heat, I could see her beating Becky Lynch, because they're giving her a pretty strong heel push right now. It's just I don't feel like fans are reacting to it.
Yeah, I think it's going to take a little while for it. One, she's got to stop moonwalking, and she probably needs new music. Well, the music could probably stay, but she's got to stop the moonwalking. She needs to play up being the bitch part of it. The nice thing about being a heel is heel tactics. You can hide the fact that you're not quite as good of a worker as a heel because you can be dastardly. So she can do a lot of just cheap, dastardly stuff to hide the fact that, bless her heart, she's just not that good of a worker. And I think the heel fits her personality more unless she's with Cass and Enzo and then she's a babyface. But if she's on her own, she needs to be a bad guy.
Yeah, I was just saying, she's just getting the rub from them. Most people can give a crap if she's there or not.
Exactly. But next, let's see, Natalia was eliminated by Nikki Bella, who then was immediately eliminated by Carmella, which I loved that spot. I thought that was great.
Definitely.
And then Becky got the win with the disarmer, and the place went nuts. Becky is super over. She is so good as a babyface. She was good as a heel when she first turned heel in NXT and got that fieriness in her when she was working with Sasha. That was really good, but she's become this really good heel. I mean, babyface. And I thought it was great. She did a good promo. She was the right person to put the belt on. As much as I agree with you, I think at some point Naomi really needs this. But to be the first one, it needed to be Becky. Because if nothing else,
and I felt like SmackDown.
Oh, go ahead.
I was saying, I felt like SmackDown was really focused on you getting the championship on the people that everyone wants to be the champion, and everybody's been pushing for Becky to be the champion for a very, very long time. So I felt like that was the perfect case in this, and it can lead to some decent storylines with her. I think she's too cookie-cutter babyface right now. I would like to see a little edge to her promos, but because especially the Becky Balboa thing, I thought was really cheesy. But I'm looking forward to seeing what they do with her. She's gonna make everybody step up their in-ring work.
Yeah, I agree. I think I kind of cringed a little bit on the Becky Balboa thing too, but I think that's just kind of her personality. She's kind of a dork.
Yeah,
and that's just coming out. And so yeah, that was. But that was cool. And that match was a lot better than I thought it was going to be. I thought that had the makings of a train wreck, and it was actually a lot of fun.
It was their showcase. It was SmackDown showcase, and I felt like they told all the wrestlers, you really need to bring it tonight because this is going to try to get people to start tuning into the show.
Yep, I agree. We then had the worst part of this show was the Miz backstage talking to some 12-year-old that apparently has a show on Nickelodeon. That was awful. Then we go.
He's not even. I was gonna say I didn't even put that in my notes because I forgot it happened.
Oh, yeah.
I think I was trying to block it out, but it definitely went more to the Miz being the A-lister. But the kid I looked up the kid that night. He's in extreme sports. He was in the X Games. They gave him a show on Nickelodeon where he goes around and does crazy things. Not necessarily Jackass style, but like he'll like try to be a wrestler for a day, or he'll try to do the skydiving thing for a day. So it's like him going on different adventures. I guess he's popular. Never heard of him, honestly, until Sunday night. But I'm a 35-year-old man, so I probably shouldn't have heard of him.
Yep.
So Yeah. It was the worst part of the show because I absolutely had no idea who the kid was until I looked him up after that part.
We then had Bray Wyatt attacking Randy Orton backstage, creating an injury, which would come into effect later. This is all prompted because apparently Randy Orton's had a concussion this whole time.
Yeah, Brock gave him a concussion.
Yeah, well, no shit. Brock beat the piss out of him. Yeah. And those elbow shots were, I mean, that was why Randy was like, oh, sure, I'll let him do that. No problem.
But they told him that he knew how to graze him to where it would bust him open the hard way, but it not be that bad, and Brock hit him too hard because Brock doesn't pull punches.
Yeah. And you got to wonder, I mean, if maybe subconsciously somehow Brock was still in UFC mode, because the last time he had been in a ring, he was in an actual fight.
Yeah.
So.
Well, he said the hardest part of, because I've heard Punk say it too, that the hardest part of going from wrestling to UFC is learning not to pull your punches. So
it makes sense that it would be the other way around if you were just in a match where you're pummeling some fool.
Yeah, and it's like elbows aren't something Brock really throws in a match anyway. So that was probably him going half speed. But he's a man beast. So.
God, he is such a scary individual, especially when he decides to move, and when he runs. Because there was one time recently I forget when it was, but he came down to the ring, basically sprinted and vaulted essentially over the top rope, running after somebody, and it was scary.
Yeah, he is an athlete in every class of the word. He was an Olympic competitor that went straight in wrestling, so his body doesn't have the beating on it that other wrestlers do or other athletes that comes in had on it. I'm just like, if it wasn't for the diverticulitis that he got, he'd probably still be, in the MMA like full time.
Yeah.
And then it's just, he's such an impressive specimen. I can't even call him. He's just such an impressive person that I buy everything that he does.
Now, have you ever met him? Because I know you've met a lot of these.
I have not. I have never met Brock Lesnar. I honestly can say about 100 yards is probably the closest I ever got when I was ninth row at WrestleMania 19. That's the closest I ever got to Brock Lesnar. He is very much antisocial, and the only time he did meet and greets is for the UFC. So I have not been able to meet him.
Okay. We had next the Usos versus the Hype Bros. I like the Usos' new entrance. The little thing they're doing.
Yeah.
The saddest I think about this whole match was the fact that the crowd did not care about the Hype Bros. Poor Mojo was trying, and they just sat there and looked at him like, "Who are you?"
It wasn't that. It's just that I believe, smarter crowds now, everyone knew the Usos were going over.
Yeah.
So it's like, if you really thought the Hype Bros had a chance, you cheer for them, but everyone knew the Usos were going over.
Yeah, I agree.
mean, some person that probably third show watching wrestling like, oh, the Usos are going to win. So.
And they did win with a submission, which was kind of cool.
And they're very much stealing the Revival style, which is awesome.
Hey, man, the more teams we have doing what the Revival does, I think the better.
That's what I agree.
And you know what? I think the heel turn is going to give a lot of new life to the Usos, because the Usos had gotten as good as they are, and they are really good. They have held that tag team division together for a very long time, but they were getting boring.
Yes, they were very much getting boring. I did hear an idea on the internet. I just wanted to bring this up, and I just thought it was so cool. It was like, what if Rikishi came back and was their heel manager? And I was like, you know what? I'm not a big bring everybody back type person, but I just thought that would be over. But he's such a face I feel like the time would have been to bring them back when they were getting stale, was to bring them back, and it would add it to their setting them being a face. But him coming back as a heel, maybe in the like all black suit and just saying, you're kind of doing business, I could honestly get behind that. But I really think they're doing a great job at his heels because I truly believe that's their natural personality. Like, the personality turned up to 10.
Yeah.
That's what it is.
I agree. And if you were going to, Rikishi, that would be kind of interesting, but you're right. He's so beloved at this point. You'd almost want to bring back someone from the Samoan family who was always a heel. But some of those guys are just so old anymore.
Yeah. It seems like the middle ones all, unfortunately, have passed away.
Right.
So, or are not in the greatest health. But, so I definitely think, you would have needed someone. It would have been like I said, Heyman would probably be the best because he's had that past with the Samoans. It has nothing to do with Heyman should be with everyone. It's more of he was the manager of the Samoan SWAT team. He was their manager for a long time. So it would have that direct correlation, as in, hey, I manage this group, I'm managing you now. That would be cool. But other than that, storyline doesn't make a lot of sense.
Yeah, I could see that. Let's see, what was next? We had, Heath Slater and Rhino had a backstage interview where, was that the one where Heath was pooping his pants or thought he was going to poop his pants?
Yes.
Okay. That was, it was all right.
It was funny.
Yeah.
I thought it was funny, and I thought it was lighthearted, and I felt like it didn't take away from the show. So that's what that's what it's all about to me. Is
I can see that
take away from the show.
And that was probably for Vince. He likes his poop humor.
Yes, he loves poo humor.
We then had the Dolph Ziggler Miz match, and they had a really good vignette beforehand. And I love Miz screaming at Daniel Bryan backstage, and they played this up again on SmackDown this last week. But is this building to anything? I don't think WWE is ever going to clear Daniel Bryan to wrestle. So unless they clear him to hit a move or something, so tell him, it's okay, go ahead and hit him with a knee. But I don't know. It's great. It is great. And then I loved in the match when The Miz started doing a bunch of Daniel Bryan's moves. I thought that was fantastic.
He did not get his goodbye match, so I could see them building Miz versus Bryan at WrestleMania one more match. And I think the way The Miz works, you don't bump a lot. There's not a lot of head bumps from The Miz.
Right.
That it will work to the point where it could be very safe one last match.
Yeah, I could see that. Now, on a separate question, because Daniel Bryan's contract has started again, and the reports had been that he tried to get out of his contract so he could go wrestle other places. Do you think once his contract is over, we will see him in a ring in somewhere like New Japan or Ring of Honor?
No, because Brie doesn't want him to wrestle anymore.
Okay.
The whole they're trying to have kids thing, everything that he says is 100% legit.
Okay.
She does not want him wrestling again.
And that's understandable. He's beaten himself up, and I'm sure he is very wealthy, and he lives, as far as I can tell, he lives a pretty frugal life. Mm-hmm. And between his salary and the money that Brie has, because she's got a lot of money, plus they're getting money in from the Total Bellas and all that junk, so they're probably fine. So there's been a lot of speculation that you might see him one day in New Japan for one last run. But I think you're right. I think more of they build this to WrestleMania where he and The Miz have a match, and that's his goodbye match. And the big question is, who do you let Daniel Bryan go over?
Definitely.
Yeah.
I definitely put Daniel Bryan over. I could see putting The Miz over, but it's one of those things. Miz is the best heel in the WWE. Even if he loses, he could take that and make it all about him and how he had to do Daniel Bryan a favor because he was trying to do it for his fans or something like that. Yeah. Because the best way to do it, I don't know where he would be, but he would be close to, how many days as Intercontinental Champion. If he keeps that belt to WrestleMania, he'd probably be close to the Honky Tonk streak. I don't know. Did the Honky Tonk? I think he kept it for a year, or did he keep it?
It was well over 200 days. So let's see. Honky Tonk Man IC title. See what the old Google tells us. Maybe. But as I'm looking this up, this match though, the Ziggler-Miz match, I thought was fantastic.
Yeah, and they're true life best friends, so they're always gonna go harder. And they started off with the CM Punk UFC UFC spoof, which was hilarious. That they went at them that way, and it was. I wonder whose idea it was, but that was so cool that they did that, and it's just like the Miz wrestles harder when Dolph Ziggler's in the ring, and the Dolph Ziggler is the king of making people look amazing. So even the Miz, he was just doing his normal stuff, but Dolph Ziggler was selling it so well, you thought he was killing him.
Yeah. Yeah, I didn't realize they were actually friends in real life.
Oh, yeah, they're both from Cleveland. I follow both of them on Instagram and Twitter. At the Cavs game, Browns game, they go together like all the time.
Oh, that's cool. Yeah. Well, Honky Tonk Man, his reign was 454 days.
So he will not be close to the streak then. But it would, I guess the Miz they could build it up as the Miz is getting close to the streak. And, Daniel Bryan doesn't want it to continue.
Well,
he won't be at 400 days by then, I don't believe.
I think the better way to do it is a non-title match and have Shane McMahon say, I will not sanction this.
Yes. Ooh, that would be perfect. That it's more close to a fight than an actual wrestling match.
Exactly. And that would be the perfect way. Daniel Bryan could get the win, and you could see Miz would be, slinking off to the back, just clutching the title, saying, "I'm still the champion." And because I really do think he needs to beat that Honky Tonk Man streak. I think that would be great.
I think the best thing for it, and this is a point where we disagree, is for him to get like a day or two before it. And then lose. Because you could go crazy Miz at that point, how he was that close to the streak, and
that's true.
And I would honestly say have him lose it in a very similar way, where he's like, I've beaten everybody. You know what? I'm going to do someone a favor. Here's a title shot, and they come out, or whoever they debut at the time, and they win the IC belt on their first night by taking it from the Miz, who had it for 400 days or whatever.
Okay, so that would be, if we're just guesstimating here, that would be over a year away from now. So let's say,
I don't know when Nakamura is going to be debut, but that would be a perfect debut for him.
That would be. I was going to say who would be good. You could have Bobby Roode come out. You could have Roderick Strong. You could have any number of people. Oh man, I'm gonna have to think about that now. Well, we've got time.
Like I said, I think it'll be the greatest debut for Nakamura ever, because I feel like the way they build up Nakamura, he almost has to win a title his first night in the WWE.
And it would be fitting him winning the Intercontinental title,
because the last title he held in IWGP was the Intercontinental.
Yeah, exactly. So the Miz won after Maurice sprayed Ziggler in the eyes with hairspray or something, and then he hit the skull-crushing finale. This was probably the best match of the night.
Yep.
This was great. So I could definitely watch more of these, even though everyone knows going in, there's no way in hell Dolph Ziggler is winning. It's going to be fun.
And it was at the perfect time in the show to steal the show without stealing from the main event that was going to come.
Exactly, because it was followed up by Bray Wyatt, quote-unquote, beating Randy Orton by a count-out which was
Yes, that was really cheesy for Bray. I didn't think it went with his character because Bray doesn't really care about winning.
right.
And so that the fact that he made him count him out was very old school heel and not what Bray Wyatt and his character represents at all. I just thought that was so out of character for his character.
Yeah, exactly. I agree. But then we had Kane come out. Kane.
Yeah.
In 2016.
Well, see, yeah, he's old, but he still works so well.
He does.
I thought the match was really good. I mean, because, you weren't expecting it, but they really laid into each other.
Yeah, and if I'm being completely honest, it was a much better match than it, A, had any right to be, and B, I think anyone was expecting it to be.
Yes, it took me. I was like, I'm not going to pay attention to this match because I'm like watching wrestling and I have the football game in the background, and the match caught my attention and made me pay attention. So it made me pay attention to it. And I was like, whoa, this was a really good match. And not only did they go out and perform, they continued with the storyline.
Right.
And how it ended with the whole Bray losing to the RKO thing. So I thought it was, as for the situation that they were stuck in, which unfortunately for WWE was a shitty situation, they made the best of it.
Exactly. But this is a case where I think WWE knew almost the entire time. They were kind of hoping that Randy would be okay, but they knew going into it, okay, he's hurt. He's probably not going to be able to do this, but we're going to promote this match anyway, which was just terrible. But my question is, if he has a concussion, now I know that falling on your back isn't the same as falling on your head, but still, what doctor's going to say? Yeah, it's okay. Go do an RKO. That'd be great.
Well, RKO, he doesn't land on his head at all.
Right.
He's been doing it for years. He's one of their best wrestlers. He knew how to protect himself, and most importantly, I think he wanted to work. And let's say he was, the WWE does, handcuff itself. If he was in the Indies, he would have worked that match. And nothing would have been said about it. But because the WWE puts itself, it gives itself all these rules of real sports, and it's not a real sport, and that's very annoying to me.
It is, but you know what? I will say that I think, and I can't remember if you and I have talked about this before, but I think truly that if you compare professional wrestling, MMA, and boxing, as far as in the long haul, which of these activities is more harmful to the human body? I think
it's definitely wrestling.
It's by far wrestling, because they're working multiple times a week, especially in WWE. And yeah, it is scripted, but they are falling on their heads, on their backs. Yeah. They are getting punched the whole 9 yards. And then if I was going to rank them, I would say then boxing is the next most dangerous, because the entirety of boxing is getting punched in the freaking face.
Yep.
And MMA is probably the safest of these professions.
Because the MMA has learned from all the other ones, and they lean on the side of, if you're not fighting back, I'm stopping the fight.
Exactly.
So I've seen fights where it's clear that it didn't seem like the person was knocked out at all, but they still stopped the fight, and that is why, definitely UFC is safer, and you'll hear most wrestlers say a lot of wrestlers, not the people that wanted to do this for their whole life, but the Undertaker said if MMA was around when he decided to go into wrestling, he would have went into MMA instead.
Yeah, I think had UFC been, well, I don't even know if it was around when Lesnar first started, when he, after college, and he went into OVW. I think had it been around, or at least been around as big as it had become, he would have gone into that instead pro wrestling.
It was around, but it didn't make a lot of money. And if you ever hear an interview or hear anyone talk about Brock Lesnar, that's why he does things.
Yeah,
it's for money.
Exactly. But yeah, I'm in agreement with you. This match was better than it should have been. Real quick, this gives me an idea for, I forgot to mention this at the top of the show, but every week we are going to be doing we're bringing back the top 5, something Jason and I used to do back in the old episodes. And every week we're going to have we're going to talk a top 5 subject. And this week is a fun one that Floyd picked out. And I'm thinking next week we should do our top 5 favorite cutters. The people who do the best, our 5 favorite people who use the cutter as a finisher.
Okay, I'm down with that. Definitely down with that.
I'm going to have to write that down because I will forget what that is, but I'll do that later. So next up, we had AJ was backstage talking to a couple of jobbers for some dumb reason. We then had the Usos versus Heath Slater and Rhino for the tag team titles. There were lots of Let's Go Slater chants. Slater and Rhino got the win thanks to Rhino hitting a spear and Slater barely getting into the pin. This was a lot of fun. I thought it wasn't a great match per se, but it was entertaining as all get out.
It's a lot of fun, but I feel like this was a bad booking decision.
Really?
I feel like the Usos should have went over. It would have added to their heel character and continued the Heath storyline. The Heath storyline has been the best part. Even though SmackDown's been great, it's been the best part of SmackDown. So if you continue it for a week or two, to me, you get the fans really behind it and really hating the Usos, and then you give Slater and Rhino the build up the match for SmackDown, get Slater and Rhino the belts there, and give SmackDown maybe a ratings boost if the storyline is catching on.
That's a good idea. The other thing I could have seen was have some shenanigans in the finish, and the Usos win, and then on SmackDown that week, Daniel Bryan or Shane come out and say, Heath Slater, you were obviously screwed. Here's your chance to earn a shot here next week. You will go one-on-one with Uso of your choosing, and if you win, you get your contract.
Yeah, I just feel like it's like the Miz and Mizdow thing. You giving him his contract, you giving him the belts. Where do you go from now?
That's true. We'll see. I think, and we'll get to this when we talk about SmackDown again. But they're starting to sow the seeds of Rhino getting sick of his shenanigans.
Yes.
So they will probably not hold the belts long. Rhino will turn, and then maybe we have a feud. And who knows? I mean, maybe finally it's to the point where people are kind of accepting of Heath Slater, and he's found a fun character. Because I tell you what, that shirt he was wearing this week, hilarious. That I got kids, I need this job.
Yes, I actually went and purchased this shirt for my friend Jason.
Oh, that's fantastic.
Because I just thought it was funny. Because we honestly, it comes from us making fun of the fact that if you work at any company and you want to shift, and then there's another person that wants to shift, and they have kids, they're generally going to give it to the person with kids. So I always tell him, whenever he needs a day off or whatever, just tell them about his kids. They'll always buckle.
Good call. We then went into the main event, AJ Styles versus Dean Ambrose for the WWE World title. Really good vignette again, which is something this company does quite well, is their vignettes. This was the point that I really thought the crowd finally woke up. And there was at one point, Dean was hitting some mean shots to AJ's head. I think it was, at one point he was in the calf crusher, and he just started kicking the back of AJ's head and like slamming it into the mat. There was just a few points I was watching, I was like, ooh, that's a little too far. But AJ got the win, even with the crotch shot, but he's a heel, so it doesn't matter. And I popped so hard for this. This was so much fun. It's a great match.
All right, first to the Dean thing. I think it was more of him taking Stone Cold's advice that he is wrestling snug, you know, all that borderline stiff, okay. And you have someone you can do it with. AJ has worked strong style. He doesn't care if he even said it on his podcast that he likes it when you get a little more violent and a little closer to the real information. As far as the finish, I honestly felt like I've been waiting 15 years for this. You know, I've been waiting since the first time I saw him in TNA, and he really just won me over. I always said if he came to WWE, they would have no idea what to do with him. I was like, he's small, he's fast, he can work any style. I was like, no one will be able to keep up with him. And it's funny that over the last 15 years, up to this point, it's been WWE catching up with him. Because the in-ring work, the wrestlers they have gotten smaller and faster and more talented. They finally caught up with AJ to where it was time. This makes sense. He can work with anybody. You can put him in a main event with Corbin right now. He's going to make Corbin look amazing before he beats him. So I just think this was the right decision on every time. I was so happy for AJ, or Uncle Allen as they like to call him. I felt like I honestly felt like a part of me, you know, won the world title too, because I've seen him wrestle since he was in the Cruiserweight Tag Team Tournament in WCW, to his first show in TNA, to him winning the TNA World Title till now, to him joining the Bullet Club till now. It's just, it was well deserved. I seriously shed a tear, and I didn't even shed a tear when Kevin Owens won. I truly shed a tear when AJ won the title.
Yeah, it was cool. My first real experience with AJ was when he was basically on his way out of TNA, and he lost the title to Magnus. Which, poor Magnus, where'd that guy go? Jeez. But that was, and I tell you what, even though he was on his way out, they made him look like $1 million in that match, because it took like everyone and their dog to beat him. So that was my first real experience, and then I started watching stuff online, and that's when I came across that match I talked about last week with him and Cedric Alexander, that I loved, and that match just blew me away, and I've watched that thing a number of times. So yeah, I'm a guy that I really like that style, and I always have, going back to when I was younger. As a kid, sure, Hogan was fun, and you wanted him to beat the dastardly villain, but I always loved the Four Horsemen. I always loved Sting. I always loved Ricky Steamboat. And then in the 90s, I was big into Benoit and Malenko and Guerrero and those people. So yeah, to me, AJ Styles that's the natural progression of where that was coming from. And so yeah, I popped big time, teared up, which I do all the time. I cry like it's like a faucet some days. But yeah, this was great, and it was time. And not to take anything away from Dean, I think Dean was a really good champion. I think people gave him a lot of crap about it, and that's mostly because he's a private person and doesn't really dig interviews out of character, which we also talked about before. But
his character does not work with the title. His character works better chasing the title.
Right.
Yeah. It's just who it is. It's just the crazy guy winning the title becomes the corporate guy. So you have to keep the belt off the crazy guy. And it's great that he's had the title, but seriously, his title reign should only be like a month, a week a month at the most.
Yeah, for someone like Dean Ambrose, it needs to be a shorter title run. Now, I think that a lot of the title runs in general need to be a bit longer than they are. Mm-hmm. So I think he had a good amount of time with the belt. Yeah. It established him as a very serious main eventer. You can't at this point say that Dean Ambrose is not a main eventer. He's completely proven it. And he really, this was one of his best matches in WWE, period. And again, you're with a guy like AJ Styles. You can put a mop in there against AJ Styles. It's going to be fantastic.
Yeah, and just like AJ has had a great match with pretty much every member of the Shield, and seriously, he gets people over. That's why he's going to be that's why I think he's the perfect person for the champ, because like I said, he can take someone, let's say Baron Corbin, who's not ready, and because Baron Corbin's going to have to make his in-ring style, he's going to have to step up his game to keep make faster or be faster. He's going to get over just because he's in the ring with someone that is so good. And then you just imagine all the bad wrestlers AJ Styles been in the ring with.
It's mind-boggling.
Yes, and because he was in the independent world where he had to wrestle all those horrible wrestlers, he's like the perfect person to be the champion because he's going to make your face look like bigger faces. He's going to make your heels look like bigger heels, and whatever character you have him in the role in, he's going to be great. Like, I can honestly see AJ, if they decide to do a long title run, about halfway through the title run going face.
I could see that too. And I really hope that they keep the belt on him through at least WrestleMania. Though a part of me died inside on SmackDown this week when a certain someone made a return. But we'll get there because that just doesn't need to happen. But yeah, he needs to hold that belt for a long time. And like you, I think everyone was afraid he was going to show up in WWE. Vince wasn't going to get it. It just was, he was going to get stuck in the mid card, and it was going to be awful. But I think that reaction at the Royal Rumble, which was, I mean, it gave me chills, and I'm goosebumps up my arms. I'm getting goosebumps now just thinking about it. That was one of the coolest moments I've ever seen when he came out, even though that snug, tight camera that they had on Roman's, beautiful Samoan face for that long through the whole thing, that almost ruined it. But that entrance was, and that place going just absolutely bananas.
It was Orlando,
which was
the home of TNA.
Home of TNA, the home of NXT.
Perfect.
Yeah.
Just a smarter fan in Orlando generally because of how much wrestling they have there now.
Exactly. It's a smarky town. On top of that, the Royal Rumble has become a destination pay-per-view.
Yes, definitely.
So, yeah, that was the perfect storm. And that, I think it just... maybe this was one of the few times where something was so good Vince couldn't deny it.
Apparently Vince loves him.
I know. Thank God.
That is so weird. It's like apparently Vince just thinks the world of AJ Styles, and AJ made himself.
Yeah.
He's a self-made man. When TNA tried to lowball him, he left. It was the smartest decision he ever made. I remember there was a time the WWE was trying to bring him and Christopher Daniels in as a tag team. And I thought that was I was like, man, WWE's finally, and it's just like he just kept betting on himself. He kept saying no and betting on himself. And like I said, of all the people in wrestling, I could finally think of something negative to say about everyone. Nothing negative to say about AJ Styles. He deserves it. He works hard. He earns it. I just all I can say is I hope injury doesn't get him.
Yeah.
Because that's the only thing that's gonna make his star shine any less.
Yeah, I think the only negative thing that I can even think to say about AJ, and who knows if his opinions have changed over the years, but he apparently is not very fond of the gay community. But hopefully he's learned from that.
He's not, but he doesn't let it affect his work.
Yeah.
I mean, you know what? I don't care what your opinions are to me. I could sit next to a person that I know absolutely hates black people. But if you don't let it affect the work and you can work with me, I'm okay with it. Because to me, I am not responsible for your opinions. You're at work. As long as you stay professional, we're good.
There you go. That's very mature of you, sir. Man. We got some maturity on this show. I don't know what we're going to do with ourselves. Let's go on to Monday Night Raw because we've already been talking for over 45 minutes. That's awesome.
I'm going to say this. I was not impressed by Raw. I don't have a lot to say about it because I thought it was kind of just
Yeah, I'm right there with you. Some of the Charlotte and Dana Brooke stuff is getting interesting.
You know what? I didn't like it at first because we're starting with the opening segment. Yep. I didn't like it at first, and then I got some news this weekend, which is not going ahead of anything because she wasn't on any other show, that Emma's coming back. And that she's healthy and she's going to debut on Raw soon. That now makes sense for that storyline.
Yeah, and if Emma came back and Dana went back with Emma and they go after Charlotte, that could be cool.
That's perfect because how bad Charlotte treated Dana. You know, Emma and Dana were they were equals. You know, Emma was more of the wrestler and Dana was more of her manager, almost like her valet to a point.
Oh, and they're so good together. And that was the whole pairing with Charlotte was, it was because, well, we brought this girl up to work with Emma, and then Emma got hurt, so
we don't want to just send her back. So
even though she probably should have gone back,
she should have went back. I think she would have been perfect as Asuka's first opponent after Bayley, and she would have been perfect as and because right now they don't. I know we're not there yet, but they don't have anyone.
No.
So
they don't, and I love that first Asuka's first match where Dana just slapped her across the face, and the crowd just responded screaming, chanting, "You fucked up." Yeah, oh, that was awesome, and Dana she needs some more time in the ring. On the mic, she's great.
Yes, and like I said, if Emma's gonna be the worker of that group, that's perfect. Dana talks, Emma works, that's perfect. Charlotte didn't need Dana at any point.
No.
Charlotte can carry herself on the mic. She's not great, but she can carry herself on the mic. And, of course, in the ring, she's second to none.
Yeah.
So,
and Charlotte's gotten a lot better on the mic in the last, basically ever since she got rid of her dad. She has just incrementally improved, and I think some of that is she's probably getting more and more comfortable.
And I believe she pretty much has watched tapes of her dad because the way she does the promos is a female version of him. She doesn't talk about how much money she has as much, but I mean seriously, she pretty much the whole idea of she yells everything and everything's loud in this way. It's just very much him, but a female version.
Yeah, but what I like about it is she doesn't sound like she's aping her dad.
Yeah.
So that's cool. This did lead into a triple threat match for number one contender, Sasha Banks versus Bayley versus Dana Brooke. I will say, after just having trashed Dana Brooke's work rate, this was her best match I've seen her in. Mm-hmm. Granted, she's in the ring with two of the best female wrestlers in the world.
And all she had to do was what she was good at.
Yeah.
She didn't have to force anything because if she didn't want to be a part of it, you get knocked down and she stays down while the two workers work.
Yeah, exactly. Sasha got a pin out of nowhere, even though I swear her shoulders were down too.
No, her shoulders were down. I pointed it out when it initially happened. Everybody pointed it out when it initially happened. I'm going to see if they go anywhere with it.
Yeah, I wonder it'll be.
They completely ignored it on the show.
Exactly. This led to Dana Brooke backstage approaching Charlotte, who basically told her to shut up and get her bags. That was awkward, but it's building to Dana's going to snap and just pummel
because
Charlotte at some
playtime's
point.
Over. The worst catchphrase ever.
I don't know, but when it's followed up with the patting on the head.
Yeah.
Oh man, I forget who was it. What was her name? There was the announcer that they had who had been on.
Her name was Devin.
Devin. When she would pat Devin on the head, that was hilarious.
Because her reaction to it sold it even more.
That was great. It was so sad they let Devin go. She was actually a good interviewer, I thought.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, and I keep saying there had to be something else there because it couldn't have been her work on screen because it was great. It was what you were supposed to be in NXT.
Exactly. So we then had the Shining Stars trying to sell R-Truth a timeshare. So
that was before Bo Dallas?
Yes.
Okay. I have them reversed on my notes.
I think it was. In my notes, Cass and Enzo came. Just who cares? Even though R-Truth is hilarious. And
yes. The problem is, I love R-Truth in any role, but the role he's kind of playing is, unfortunately for me, borderline racist.
I can so see that.
So it's like, I understand why he's doing it. You got to keep a job, but it is so close.
Yeah,
it is so close to just being straight sleep and eat type of the 30s type of humor, and I'm just like, you're getting really, really close. And it's getting closer every week.
Yeah, it's kind of sad. Then we had Kevin Owens doing a backstage interview with Tom Phillips. I like Tom Phillips, just got to say that. Kevin Owens is great at giving him crap, but not quite
Perfect
as great.
Straight man.
Yeah.
Perfect straight man for him.
Exactly. And then Chris Jericho comes in and starts like calling him other names. and there was just a couple of moments during this that had me laughing so hard. And I can't remember because I didn't write down the specifics of what he said, but it was just fantastic.
Yeah, Jericho is the best on the mic in the company right now. I mean, that's include. I mean, Cena is kind of not necessarily a full-time person anymore, but Jericho is. I mean, seriously, I mean, like him and the Miz as far as drawing heel heat. They are right there together. And he's just hilarious, and he gets it. And I see why they brought him back to be pretty much a full-time wrestler.
Oh yeah, he's great, and yeah, that was one of the best parts of this whole show, I thought. We then had Bo Dallas versus a scrub named Brandon Scott. Bo did some poetry before the match, which during the match we got some "Let's Go Jobber" chants. I liked that. Bo won. This makes me sad because I love Bo Dallas.
And he's a very talented worker, but his character is horrible. And they need to scrap the whole Believe image, everything about it, and just go a different way. I don't mind the name, but they just they have to go somewhere else with him.
See, I like the Believe stuff. But I like the what he was doing in NXT. Especially that the night he finally lost, and he lost his mind, and security had to come and get him, and they had all that extra footage on YouTube. That stuff was comedy gold.
And I feel like his character works in NXT. That is why I'm saying they have to scrap him for the main roster.
I can see that. And plus, Vince doesn't get it. We've said it before. If Vince does not get you, then...
That's the mark of death.
Yeah, exactly. So at this point in my notes, as I was going along, I wrote this down, and I want to see if you agree with me. This new Raw theme sounds like really bad, really generic wannabe Metallica.
I am not a music person, so I wouldn't know what actual Metallica really sounds like.
Okay. I hate the theme music for Raw. It's awful.
Okay. Well, let's say, I mean, there's music that comes on before wrestling. That's about it. I don't really pay attention to. I mean, it has to be really catchy for me to. So the fact that I don't pay attention to it is a bad sign for the Raw music.
And, speaking of music, NXT, I like their music, but they've added this new sound effect into it. Almost like a laser sound thing at points. I don't understand why they did that. It's like the music was fine. What are you doing? This now makes it sound stupid.
I defer to you on all things music.
Okay.
I'm not trying to sandbag you. I just don't even pay attention for the most part. It has to be like Bobby Roode's Glorious. Like, I didn't get Shinsuke Nakamura's theme for like 6 months. I was just like, it's a theme.
Oh, man. All right.
So, like I say, I will defer to you on all things music. If you have critiques of music, I will listen and say, uh-huh.
Okay. Yeah,
I know.
Big
I see
person.
that you put like your top 5 albums and stuff like that. I'm like, cool. Great job, Dave. Probably how you think of me when I start talking about football.
Yeah, I'm not a football person.
There you go.
There you go. We then had Chris Jericho highlight reel with Sami Zayn.
Keep Zayn relevant.
Do what?
Keep Zayn relevant.
Yes, and I loved Zayn's line. Yeah. The gift of Jericho. That gift sucks.
Yeah, he was. it was perfect because, like I said, like for him and for the people that are really mouthy, Zayn is the perfect foil for them because he'll just say something that's actually true and it just throws it all off. And I wouldn't say I like Zayn on the mic, but he knows what he's good at and he does it.
Yeah.
And that's it. He doesn't try to come up with catchphrases or anything like that. He's just who he is. He's the closest thing to a regular guy wrestling in the WWE.
Yeah. I mean, he's like what Daniel Bryan was, minus a catchphrase, which, I mean, Daniel Bryan's catchphrase was just saying yes or no, depending on the time. But I also love the part where Jericho just hit Sammy in the face with his phone.
Yeah.
I thought that was great.
Then the code breaker.
Yeah.
Because you know what? I think Jericho's going to be that guy as long as Owens is the champ. You got to work a program with Jericho before you get the program with Owens. Because I think, of course, Kevin Owens, Sami Zayn world title program is very near and dear just because how much their matches mean to everyone. And, beating Sami Zayn makes you a heel.
Yeah.
Everyone loves Sami Zayn.
Yeah.
I mean, the internet hasn't even turned on Sami Zayn as a face.
Thank God.
Everyone loves Sami Zayn.
So I'm of the opinion, though, you need to hold off on that for a while. The last thing these two guys need is to be, for lack of a better term, stuck together. Now, granted, they are always going to feud because they are so perfect together. But let's not wear that out so quickly. We're 6-9 months in to Sami Zayn being on the main roster. 9 months, and Owens has been there for over a year now. Give it time. These guys are still young. You've got at least a decade, probably, I'd say, out of both of them. There's no reason to blow the load on this thing right now. At the very least, you need to hold it off till WrestleMania. Because I would like to see Owens keep the belt, just like with AJ. I'd like to see him keep the belt through at least WrestleMania.
I don't see him holding the belt that long. As much as we would love it, I don't see him as the main event of WrestleMania. So I don't think Vince is gonna go that far as to main event WrestleMania.
Well, that's the beauty of with the brand split. AJ Styles can main event WrestleMania.
That's true, but just knowing what Vince does, he's going to bring in, it's going to be the Brock, or it's going to be the Rock, or it's going to be John Cena. It's going to be a name. I want it to be those people, but he's going to bring in a name.
And the problem with doing that in the long run is you're hurting your business in the long run. They've really got to start really building new stars. And it's one thing to bring in, your Undertakers, your Rocks for things, but they shouldn't be the main event. Granted, I know they bring in a lot of eyes, but so can these other guys if they're given time. In a lot of ways, right now is very similar to where WWE was in 94 through 96.
Right before the Attitude Era. Yeah.
Right. And right before the whole thing, the Montreal Screwjob, that's where everything changed. Because that's when Vince McMahon decided to start doing an Eric Bischoff impression and actually did it better than Eric did and became the heel authority figure that everyone hated. Stone Cold took off really big and things changed. But
the thing about the Attitude Era is... And I think it's the biggest problem now is that the audience that they went after were adults, and of course, if you go after an adult audience, teenagers are gonna love it because teenagers love anything that's adult.
Right.
Right now, the whole idea of the TV-14 thing is that it's like we're trying to advertise to teenagers and things like that, and it just doesn't work. And right. I mean, as far as and I mean this as in, I love the wrestling programs we're getting now. But as far as mainstream, like I always say, my friend Jason is the person that I'm trying to get to turn on Raw. Not me, not you, because we're going to turn on Raw every week no matter what. I'm trying to get Jason, a guy that he watches it kind of, sort of. He knows a lot of stuff based on me talking, but he's not a rabid fan. If something's better on Monday, he's going to watch it. So I'm trying to get him to tune in. And Jason's not, for the most part, tuning in to watch great wrestling.
Yeah. He's
tuning in for a great storyline. And then the wrestling is kind of, it adds to it, which was the Attitude Era. Everything was about storyline, and the wrestling was just kind of what brought it together. Because there wasn't a lot of great wrestling during the Attitude Era.
No. But and a lot of that, those were guys that had to be established in those post-Hogan, post-Macho Man, pre-Attitude Era years where it was pretty dark and pretty bad. Now, if you compare that time to now, the difference now is the in-ring product is so much better now than it was then, and the storylines at times are better. Sometimes they're not. We don't quite have you don't have like the plumber characters and the garbage man characters, thank God. But then you had Brett, you had Shawn in doing some really good stuff, but you also had Sid Vicious as champion, and that was the darkest days in WWE and in WCW were when they put the title on Sid Vicious. And I like Sid. He is not championship material.
But the thing about, I truly believe if no one is protesting or picketing you, you're doing it wrong.
You got it. And I have a friend who's a casual fan, a guy named, my friend Steve, and he will get, bless his heart, he gets into something for a while and then goes to something else. He says it's his ADHD. But he'll get into wrestling. It was actually his idea to start this show. He and I were the original hosts a long time ago. But whenever he gets in the mood, and a lot of times it's after listening to this show, he started watching, like, for example, he started watching the Cruiserweight Classic, and he even told me the other day, he's like, I think I found my new favorite wrestler, and it's Johnny Gargano.
Okay, Johnny Wrestling.
Yes,
I get it.
And it was because he watched those matches, and he was like, oh my God, this is incredible. Just like I think you can I think the good in-ring stuff can turn people into fans, or at least get people interested. I have a guy at work, one of our security guards, a guy named Joe, really good guy. He's watched some wrestling in the past. He likes MMA better, but I sent him the Ricochet Will Ospreay match from the Super Junior tournament, and he was like, that was freaking awesome. That was incredible. And I think you can get casual fans to enjoy wrestling, because let's be honest, why did people stay watching Nitro? It was because they were like, holy crap, this Rey Mysterio and Chris Jericho just had this killer match. Why am I going to change a channel?
But they set up for an appetizer for the main storyline.
Right.
And I feel like that's maybe what the Cruiserweights are going to do on Raw starting next week. But that's what I'm like. It's just, I'm not the big TVMA guy, but I do think the storylines have to get edgier, and I do think there has to be a few more storylines that really don't have a lot to do with wrestling.
I can see that.
And and it's just, we have to get to it. It's like this whole Rusev, Lana, Roman thing, which we'll get to. I just feel like there's a whole bunch more ways where they could get it away from wrestling, but it's they've kind of handcuffed themselves.
Yeah, we'll get there here in a second. The next up,
I didn't really want to get into it yet. Yeah.
We have Cesaro versus Sheamus in their best of 7. Cesaro got the win. Thankfully, if he doesn't win this best of 7 thing, I'm going to be pissed.
I like that. I like how he won. It adds to, it shows his desperation, adding to his character that all he wants is this chance, and he will do whatever it takes to get this chance. I think that would be hilarious. I do have something. I think it would be funny to make fun of the best of series by having Braun Strowman do it against a jobber. And he just wins 4-0.
Bring out James Ellsworth.
Yes, that's what I was gonna say it, but we were gonna talk about him later.
Yes.
But even with Mick Foley trying to get Ellsworth over, it would be hilarious to do James Ellsworth challenge Braun Strowman to a best of 7 series. That would be kind of amazing.
We had Mick Foley doing some backstage stuff with Seth Rollins, and then they announced that Chris Jericho will face Sami Zayn at Clash of Champions. Then we had Alicia Fox going against Nia Jax, and Nia Jax had a backstage interview before hitting the ring. The poor girl's so green, and she seems like the sweetest lady. Girl, she's not a lady. God, I could probably be her dad, but she seems like a sweetheart, and she's a poor thing.
I'm completely in love with her outside of her wrestling character, because every video I follow her on Snapchat and Instagram, completely in love with her. But the whole dominant character thing is not who she is.
No.
So she's trying to get it off, and they're trying to make her this badass chick, and it doesn't really work for her. I liked her with Eva Marie. I thought that was best.
That was good.
Eva Marie could do all the talking, and Nia Jax could be the backup, but I could see they didn't just want to turn her into another Tamina Snuka, so I get it. I get why they didn't do it, but the backstage interview was cringeworthy. The match was good. She can work, and Foxy did a good job getting beat up.
She did, and that spear through the barricade.
Yes.
That was brutal.
That was a next level spot, not something you expect to get from women. So that was even better. And like I said, I like her. She can work and all that stuff. She's missing that extra thing to get her over. As far as her finisher, which is she's horrible at doing, I actually saw something. I was watching like the last 10 minutes of ROH, and there was these 2 big black dudes, and they were going against the War Machine. I honestly didn't even catch their names. They were that insignificant. But at the time, one of the guys did a fireman's carry, almost flipped over like John Cena did, but he turned it into a power slam. And it was to the side instead of trying to go over his head like she does. And I figured that would be the perfect finisher for her. It's hilarious because I thought it was so perfect for her. I was going to send her a YouTube video of this finisher, right?
Yeah.
I could not find these guys' names, let alone the name of the finisher or how to describe it. So it was kind of crazy. So if anyone's listening who watches ROH and you know who the 2 big black guys is, and I was like, there's no other way to describe these men because they are massive men.
They are.
And yes, if you can remember their names, let me know so I can.
Man, I had because I actually talked about that match, or a match that they had with War Machine a couple of weeks ago. It was probably the episode before you joined the show, and it's already escaped me. One of those guys can like jump and move.
Yeah, and they actually seemed like it was because they were both also big. It was actually working, but when he hit the move, I was just like, "That's Nia Jax's finisher right there." I was like, "That's her finisher." I was like, I wasn't even thinking of Nia Jax, but as soon as he did the move, I said, "That's her finisher."
I can see that. Another one that she's used a jackhammer a few times. Mm-hmm. Goldberg's old finisher. That would be probably a good one for her.
Yeah, that would be a good one for her. I've been waiting on someone that's really good enough to use it. I thought they were going to go ahead and give it to Ryback, but it's a move that is so simple, not very violent. I mean, it looks like really, really violent, but it's fairly simple, and I just wish someone would use it.
Me too. I would love to see someday a jackhammer from the top rope.
Yes, that would be awesome.
That would be awesome.
Especially in the cruiserweight division. I could see Tony Nese pulling it off.
Oh, yeah. Oh, totally. We then had the New Day doing an in-ring promo, completely burying the Old Day segment from the previous week.
Which was perfect because that was a horrible, horrible segment.
It was. Gallows and Anderson come out. Eventually we get a match, Gallows and Anderson against Kofi and Xavier.
The B team.
Yes. So something they've talked about a lot lately during the matches that the New Day have, and how they're the longest reigning WWE tag team champions. But then they've also been mentioning Demolition, and Demolition were the longest reigning world tag team champions, and thus the longest reigning tag team champions in WWE history. I wonder if they're going to try to have the New Day break that record, because normally when they start talking about records like that, it's because they're planning on breaking the record. They did it with Nikki Bella and AJ Lee.
I would like the club to go over. I just, in this whole idea of it, I just feel like it would, like the New Day they're very entertaining, but they're kind of getting boring. It's becoming the same shtick. So I think them chasing the tag team belts, maybe even make some inner turmoil over who cost them the tag team belts or something like that, would add to the team.
Yeah.
But right now it's like, they're going to do this, they're going to do that, they're going to make fun of it, they're going to call someone booty, they're going to get over Booty-O cereal. You have your thing. And of course the kids love it because the kids like things that are repetitive, but me, it's like, it breaks my brain.
See, I still enjoy the New Day, but I also think that they need to pull the trigger on Gallows and Anderson, because you're risking making Gallows and Anderson look like jokes.
Yeah.
And first of all, Anderson has already eaten way too many pins. For as long as he has been in WWE, he has gotten pinned way too many times.
He's the guy that gets pinned in that group.
Yeah. But what's sad is he is so much better than Luke Gallows. So much better than Luke Gallows.
But he's not as big.
Oh, yeah, I forgot. Vince is hard on for big guys.
Yeah, and did you hear the internet? It wasn't even an internet rumor. There was an interview where Luke Gallows, Vince didn't know he was Festus.
I heard about that.
And that he did everything for him not to remember that. But yeah, he had no idea he was Festus. And I didn't either. He looks completely different.
Yeah, he does. He does. But I suspect we will be getting an Anderson Gallows title win. And what needs to happen is they need to win decisively. They need to plow over everyone for a long time. Yeah. This team needs to be rehabilitated, and the only way to do that is to make them extremely dominant. And you have them dominate over everyone. I mean, I keep using WrestleMania as a bookend, but it's a good place.
That's the end of the WWE year.
Right. So they need to dominate over everyone until WrestleMania, and maybe the Raw after Mania, someone shows up, bring up the Revival, even though, because at that point you could turn Gallows and Anderson face. Or even not, you could just bring in two heels that just like, we're better than you, and they could even walk in as NXT Tag Team Champions and go, oh, you think you're cute? Well, we've had these belts a lot longer than you. We're gonna kick your ass. You bring in just whatever. Hell, bring in the Dirty Heels. Let's get Bobby Roode and Austin Aries together. Bring them up. It's just something. They need to dominate, and then at some point, someone needs to debut and turn that into a feud.
That's cool. That would be. I actually dig it. I still think the club needs I think they do need to be with someone. I'm glad they're not with AJ Styles, but they need someone. I feel like it. I just feel like they need to be the henchmen for someone. They work perfectly as henchmen, and they need to be someone's henchmen. So, even if Kevin Owens takes it, and he's like, I took Finn's belt, now I'm taking his club, something like that.
So would you rather them be, say, when Finn gets back, they reunite with Finn, or would you rather see Roman Reigns turn heel and have them be his lunch, his bodyguards or whatever? I
think it has to be with somebody that's good on the mic. See, I don't think it works with Roman Reigns.
Yes.
I don't think, maybe, but Roman Reigns, as AJ Styles has proven, you can kind of not be that great as a face on the mic and be killer as a heel on the mic. So Roman Reigns might be killer as a heel, because he might be able to just say all the stuff that he's been wanting to say to fans that have been hating him on him for a year. Yeah. So he might be killer. But I feel like if he was killer on the mic as a heel, he'd be a heel now.
There's something... Vince McMahon is so obsessed with making him their next big money-making guy, and it's to his detriment.
It starts with being a heel first.
Yeah.
Stone Cold started as a heel, got over, then they did the double face switch. The Rock was hated until he became a heel with the Nation of Domination. Then he turned face, and he came up with all this catchphrase. Then he became face when it became Sing Along with The Rock. It starts with being a heel first. The only person I knew that was a face and there was nothing but a face was Hulk Hogan. But it starts with being a heel first.
Well, Hogan was not in the WWF, but Hogan was a heel originally.
But as when the WWF launched him, he was a face. He stayed a face, that kind of thing.
Right.
I mean, before then, he wasn't really anything. He was a mid-carder that was big. He was so big that it looked impressive when the faces beat him.
Yeah, he was right when he left the AWA.
He was a face.
He was a face, and that was the beginning of Hulkamania.
Yeah.
Then, but yeah, I can. Well, Ricky Steamboat's always been a babyface.
Yeah, and Ricky Steamboat was a great wrestler, but everybody kept saying, you know what, he needs a heel turn. Sting was a face forever. I don't ever remember Sting going all the way heel. He joined the Wolfpack, which wasn't really heel.
No.
He was just,
yeah.
But I don't remember Sting just going all the way heel.
He went heel for a short period of time when he and Luger turned on a face Hogan after the NWO.
Yeah.
And it really didn't work. Yeah, he has pretty much been, and I think when he and Ultimate Warrior were a tag team, they were a heel tag team.
Yep, Muscle Beach USA was there.
And those, man, I've seen some of those matches. They were really bad.
Yeah, they were bodybuilders. They didn't know how to work yet.
Yep. Speaking of Roman Reigns at a backstage interview, speaking of, then we had a match that no one gave two shits about. Jinder Mahal versus Jack Swagger.
I like Mahal's new gimmick. I do. I know it's going to be weird for me to say that, but I felt like they brought him back for no reason. But now I think he's a really good worker. I think he's really good on the mic when they let him in on the mic. I think he's hamstrung by the whole, I always forget what they call the thing on his head. I don't want to be racist and call it a towel, but whatever it is on his head, that hamstrings him because that makes you only be able to work certain types of characters. Why can't you just be an Indian wrestler that can wrestle? You know what I'm saying? And have your own personality that has nothing to do with your religion or your race.
Yeah, I agree.
It's so I don't know. I think Jinder Mahal has a lot of talent. He's big like Vince McMahon talk, but when he gets the mic, he knows what to do, but they're doing this peace gimmick. Now he has to be I don't know what it is, the difference between them. I think he's a Hindu or something like that. I don't know. I really sound undereducated right then, but I think it's a Buddhist where, they're all about peace. And, but he doing a gimmick and it's just this Indian guy has to be Buddhist. You know what I'm saying? And it's just, it's offensive to me and I'm not even an Indian.
Yeah. The whole, that can be, the whole peace thing is a teaching in Hinduism, Buddhism, and Jainism, which are all from India.
Yeah.
So he could be any one of those. The problem, though, is, and I'm not trying to insult the audience, but your average American audience doesn't know what those three words are.
Didn't I just prove that?
Well, maybe.
I just proved that fact. I don't know the difference between any of those, but I do know they were doing one of them, and it was just I'm not even Indian, but this is a little racist.
Yeah, him coming out with the headdress thing, and and that's when because that's probably a Vince thing, and I think you just over the years you can kind of tell Vince and Kevin Dunn. Probably a little bit, maybe it's subconscious, but probably a little bit racist. Yes. They don't get non-white people. Hell, they don't get Southerners half the time. So, but yeah, I thought this was just the absolute definition of filler. Jinder Mahal won with a freaking spinning neck breaker thing. What the hell was that? That was awful.
Yeah, I forgot who else used to do that as a finisher.
Honky Tonk Man, and it sucked then.
Yeah, But it was, like I said, it was good. He can't use his original finisher because Rusev uses it now.
Oh, the camel clutch?
Yeah, every Indian guy had to use the camel clutch too.
Why?
Yeah, like I said. I mean, I've met Jinder Mahal in the airport, and he was the least, like, his voice, how he acts, the least Indian person ever. So to play this type of character just seems completely against who he is, and I feel bad for him, but he's getting paid, so I can't feel too bad for him.
There you go. And then Jack Swagger had a backstage interview asking about his contract expiring. He walked off. We'll find out why on the next night. Enzo with Cass had a match against Epico, who had Primo by his side. The only thing to take away from this is Enzo is fantastic on the mic.
I didn't think it was his best work on the Shining Stars. I think he could have... I don't know what he could have done better because he's really creative, but I just thought it didn't land as his normal Enzo stuff lands.
Yeah, but it's the Shining Stars, man.
Yeah, and I think that's what it is. He just didn't have anything to work with.
And the sad thing is I don't think it doesn't matter how you repackage these two jabrones. We know they're the Matadors.
Why can't they just be the Colognes, who they are?
Right. But it doesn't, even if they're themselves, it doesn't matter. We've watched these guys for 5, 6, 10 some odd years be beaten into oblivion. It doesn't matter the fact they can actually work.
Oh, like, they're amazing workers.
Yeah, they're really good workers. And
that's why they're not fired.
Yeah, and you can get really good matches out of them, but you'll never, ever expect them to actually win anything substantial. They'll steal a win here and there, but at the end of this feud, Cass and Enzo will win. Because
I even said it. Carlito was the best on the three of the mic. And if they or some, he was in the doghouse with the WWE and he doesn't like the WWE, has a lot of crap to say about him. They were somehow to bring him back as them as a threesome, maybe to go against the New Day, because they are actually family. Right. So I think that would add to their characters. But it would add so much more to their characters because, they work together well. And neither one of those two are that great on the mic.
Yeah.
And Carlito, man, he was so good on the mic.
Yeah, he definitely has charisma.
Yeah, he definitely. And it was just like I spit in the face of people who don't want to be cool. And it really, as a catchphrase, doesn't make a lot of sense, but he made it work. And so I give it, it's like so many things is because the roster can get bigger now, because they have two shows, there is a lot of room to bring in people to help. And I know they've put out a lot of calls, but yeah, Carlito's a call I would make.
Yeah, I agree wholeheartedly. And that takes us to the main event. We have Roman Reigns against Kevin Owens. Right before the main event, we did have Kevin Owens backstage with Seth Rollins. Mick Foley eventually joined them, basically told Rollins to stay out of the match. This was actually a pretty good match. Seth did attack Owens, causing the DQ, which Mick Foley then restarted the match after screaming at Seth. And Rusev eventually came out, distracted Reigns. Owens got the win, thank God. And then Rusev attacked Roman after the match, and that was the end of a relatively boring Raw.
3 major points on this. Rollins as a rebel feels forced. It doesn't fit into his character. I feel like the role that he's playing would be better for KO, but I'm glad KO's the champion, so I'm not going to complain. Mick Foley restarts the match. Like in any form of competition, Kevin Owens just got beat up, and now you're going to make him wrestle? It doesn't really make sense anymore. He just got jumped and beat up. Now you're going to make him wrestle a fresh guy that wasn't jumped and beat up?
And well, that's the hope. It's the babyface Mick Foley, who we know likes Roman Reigns because he drafted Roman Reigns, even though Stephanie didn't want him, hoping to let Roman Reigns get back into the title picture. I think in the long run, it's great keeping Roman Reigns out of the title picture. He needs to be as far away from the main event as possible. Well, maybe not, like low card, but he needs to be in the mid card for a long time.
I was very much looking forward to the whole Rusev coming back. He didn't disappoint, I love him as a worker. I love him as a monster. I love him. I like I said, I'm very much on the idea that Rusev should only lose like maybe once or twice a year.
Yeah.
And I think he should pretty much beat up everybody else after that. That's the only way the character works. Once Rusev starts losing all the time, he's not special. He's not the super athlete. He's nothing. So he really is one of those characters that needs to win pretty consistently.
I agree. And that takes us to SmackDown, which was from Philadelphia, PA, one of the least lively Philadelphia crowds I've ever heard.
Biggest chant was the ECW chant for Rhino.
Yeah, which was, okay. We had some Backlash highlights and then opened the show with AJ Styles doing an in-ring promo. I think the belt looks so good on him. It's so nice to see. And then John Cena comes out.
And, that hurt my soul.
Yeah.
And he comes out and kind of demands a title shot. And I was like, but you haven't beat this guy ever. So what's the reasoning?
Yeah, and I did like the fact that he didn't do his normal shtick walking out. He didn't do his salute, even though he's never been in the military. He didn't do the holding up the towel, any of that crap. He just walked out looking angry.
Yeah.
You look angry because you got beat clean as a sheet.
Crazy Dean is back, and he had the line of the show in this.
Which line was that?
You're just a part-time guy now.
You're the lazy part-timer, yes.
I was like, oh my God, he said it, and John Cena truly, look on his face, didn't know it was coming, and did not have a comeback.
That was fantastic, yeah.
Perfect. How many times has John Cena been shut down? He didn't know it was coming, and he was completely shut down. He didn't even address it.
Yep. Yeah,
it was amazing. I'm not about John Cena looking bad, but he's so good on the mic, and he's made The Rock look bad. He's made a lot of people look bad. And for Dean to just say, boom, with one line, just shut him down. That was perfect.
Well, the thing I think with Cena is a lot of the missed opportunities. He's not treated as with the regards that Stephanie's treated. No one can ever get an upper hand on Stephanie, no matter what. Except Vicky Guerrero got to throw her into a pool of chocolate syrup, and that's no one gets an upper hand on Stephanie. And really, in a lot of ways, no one gets an upper hand on John Cena because he is Vince McMahon's golden boy. And I'm not a Cena hater. I think he is very talented. I don't think he's the best worker, but he can have great matches. The missing thing, I think, in a lot of these programs, and AJ could have done it, and Kevin Owens could have done it, where you've got, or hell, CM Punk could have done it, Daniel Bryan could have done it, when he's going on and on about you're just some stupid indie guy, and I love this company, and I wouldn't be anywhere else. The best responses would be to say, yeah, because you couldn't handle anywhere else.
Yes, you can get wrestled under the ring anywhere else, but they can't say that. See, the thing about it is the reason John Cena will never lose is the same reason Stephanie was not lose. Everything that everyone else says to him is scripted, right?
Right.
John Cena gets to come up off the cuff. So, like when he was going against AJ, and he really pissed me off by saying AJ could go work somewhere else. If it doesn't work out here, I'm not gonna do anything else. And that was just that was such a low blow and cheap shot, and you can tell AJ wasn't ready for it. And it was just okay, now I had the scripted stuff I have to say.
Yeah, which is
what
ridiculous.
am I supposed to say back to the? Yes, I was gonna say, if AJ says you wouldn't last 2 minutes in New Japan, that would, Vince would fire him. You know what I'm saying? He would be relegated so far down the card, he would be losing to James Ellsworth. So he can't say certain things because you can't go after the Golden Boy. There's only certain things you can say to John Cena. You can only say the things John expects to hear. That was why I think Dean has got some cachet. He's good in with Triple H. You can tell John Cena wasn't ready for that line that he shot at him.
And that's the kind that needs to happen more often, because John Cena, for all of the great matches he's had and everything, he's going to end up getting this accolade of one of the greatest of all time, which I think the greatest of his generation. I couldn't
get behind any of that. I mean, that actually, I can't say it more than it makes my stomach hurt.
Yeah,
the fact that anyone would consider him the best. He at no point was he the best in-ring worker. He was the biggest draw, but just being the biggest draw doesn't mean you're the best.
Exactly. So it would be. So you could I guess one way you could get around that is to have someone say, you could not have survived the path that I walked. Because that's not saying you couldn't handle New Japan, you couldn't handle Ring of Honor, you couldn't handle PWG. That's just saying I walked a different path than you.
Yeah,
you've had a silver spoon in your mouth this entire time. You would not survive where I've come from.
By comparison, you could see, I would love the line that by comparison of your golden road that you went down, I was barefoot walking in broken glass or something like that. And just to say you couldn't handle that. And he's like, you're too comfortable. You're in this, you have catering in the back, and you have nice hotel rooms to stay in. Yes, I could see that going another way. It wouldn't say anything about his talent, but it would just be how much harder it was for the person.
Right. So this all leads to a Ambrose Cena Styles match at No Mercy Triple Threat, and then the main event for this night was going to be Cena and Ambrose against AJ and a partner of his choosing, if he could find one. My big thought on this is AJ better not lose that belt at No Mercy.
My big thought on this, it was perfect because they didn't want to go right back to Dean and AJ, another match. So it buys you Dean and AJ, gives John Cena his last match before he goes off to shoot his TV show, which he does in October anyway. So he gives him a perfect way to go away. And then I would love to see, just an added point, I would love to see Baron Corbin come, take him out. Doing that triple threat match, because they're pushing him. Why aren't you going after anybody big or whatever? If he just comes out and just takes John Cena out, and that's what writes him off.
That's fantastic. I like that idea.
Yeah, as that's what writes him off. That would be perfect. But they don't want you to just have to deal with AJ and Dean over and over again. So it gives you a break before probably AJ and Dean at Survivor Series. So that works. I don't think there's any chance AJ loses in the triple threat match, barring injury. That's always got to be the big thing. Is it's just certain people. The indie guys are used to working hurt. That's the only way they know how to work. Right. So it's funny because WWE is you can't work hurt, and that's just so weird to them. Yeah. Is there any other way to work?
Yeah. On the one hand, though, we haven't seen Cena in a couple of months. Just keep him. Just say, sir, you've earned a vacation. We will see you whenever you're done with your stupid show.
SmackDown ratings are down right now.
Yeah, and it's again, this goes back to long-term planning. Are we going to keep using the crutch of a John Cena, or are we going to build up new people?
They gave AJ Styles 2 victories over the dude to try to build up AJ Styles, and people still aren't throwing it in. So
the problem with this, though, is the audience, especially the mainstream audience, has the WWE, and I'm stealing this idea from another show. The guys at Wrestling Soup talked about this. They have rested on their laurels for so long and produced mediocre to, if not straight out, shitty products for so long that everyone other than the diehards are like, screw it, I'm out. And they have to start building up. And the way you build it up, in my opinion, is you consistently produce a good product that makes your diehard fans tell their friends, dude, you got to watch this. Just like people like you and I are probably doing with telling people, are you watching NXT? Are you watching the Cruiserweight Classic? Holy crap, this is incredible.
Well, I tell everyone they should be watching wrestling now because this is the best wrestling you've gotten from the WWE in years.
Right, but it's going to take time, and if they want a quick turnaround, it's not going to happen. You've got to give these people time to really build up, and they're just going to have to take time. That's why I use the analogy back to 93, 94, and the ratings sucked. And granted, it was a different time. Raw had just started during that time frame, but they took time to rebuild. Vince said, "You know what? Okay, I don't have Hogan anymore. Savage, I don't want him in the ring anymore. I really want to build up these new guys. I know it's going to be a while before they really become established." And what happened? Those guys gave you the biggest boom period in the business ever.
A big part of, I think, is they don't know how to measure who's watching anymore. Because I don't think you don't watch Raw live, right?
Oh, no.
You don't watch SmackDown live, right?
Nope.
So you don't, I mean, I know we're not Nielsen families, or you may be a Nielsen family, but we don't really count towards the ratings. But I think the great majority of people, other than live sports, which you generally can do something else while doing it, no one really dedicates 3 hours to TV anymore.
Right.
No one dedicates 2 hours to TV anymore. You're only going to get a 30-minute or hour show where people are really passionate about it. Even like Game of Thrones, it's an hour. You know what I'm saying? But it's an hour with no commercials, so people can watch it. With Raw and SmackDown and all that stuff, I do give credit to my friend Rusty for pointing this out. They're going to have to find a different way to measure viewership, because I feel like a lot more people are watching wrestling than tune in on Monday Night for Raw than tune in on SmackDown. I know way more people are watching NXT and CWC than have the WWE Network. I know like 6 people are using my WWE Network account right now. So,
yeah, admittedly, I'm poor at the moment, so I had to cancel my network subscription. So I find other ways of procuring, and I feel bad. I mean, I don't feel quite as bad about that as maybe watching, a Ring of Honor pay-per-view. But I'm poor, man, and I'm sorry. I'm broke. I got kids. I need this job.
I completely understand, man. I had a guy, and he was in a military uniform, and he was like, he was talking to me. Oh, I see you're a wrestling fan. And he shows me a WWE tattoo that he has. Right? I'm like, dude, you're hardcore. And he's like, I was like, you ready for the pay-per-view tonight? And he's like, can't afford the WWE Network. And I was like, and I'm just staring at him. I'm like, what? It's $9.99. But yeah, it's just one of those things. It's a hamstrung thing right now.
Yeah.
If many people had the WWE Network that actually watch WWE products, yeah, their numbers would be higher, way higher. And it's like twice as many. Whatever their subscriber view, it would be double.
Yeah. So in a way, what they almost need to do, and it doesn't help. Part of the problem is they get so much money from USA that they have to keep the ratings up there. But for everything else, I mean, they could even, honestly, you could go to the places where people find the products illicitly, and it shows on those websites how many views they have.
That's true.
And they could go, okay, well, Nielsen says we had this. Hulu tells us we had this. We had these clips of the shows on Facebook, Twitter, and YouTube that have gotten this many hits. We go over here to this other website where we should be shutting them down, but we're not going to because it takes too much time. There are this many thousands of hits, and you add it all up, and that would give you a better idea of how many people are actually.
But you can't use that to charge people for advertising. True. Because when you go to the website that I think you go to, they take out all the commercials.
True. Thank God.
They strip the commercials. They make the show a lot shorter. And I actually had to go to that site because with the week that I went to Orlando, SmackDown, my DVR stopped working and it didn't record SmackDown. So I had to watch it, and I was just like, yeah, I honestly could see why people do it. But it's like me, I don't know if they're doing the thing where they are channeling your cable box and telling how many people are watching your show to get an actual good number. But I want mine to make sure my TV's on that channel.
Yeah.
when that show is coming on, just in case, because like ratings don't like with Heroes, ratings doesn't say how many people are watching your show, but I can't charge a network unless people are watching the commercials.
Exactly. Well, next up we had Usos against the Hype Bros again, and if we thought the crowd on Sunday didn't care about Mojo Rawley, Philadelphia really didn't care about Mojo Rawley.
Yeah, they have not backfilled his character. Right now, he's just a hype man. They haven't. I mean, they try to get it over during the match how he's a former football player and that kind of stuff. But they have the video with him and Gronk and all that. I think they need to start harping on how much of a party guy he is.
Oh yeah,
because I think that would bring in a different sort of fan.
And use clips from do vignettes about him. Take stuff from Breaking Ground.
Yeah.
It's Usos win. No shock there. Miz and Maurice did an in-ring promo. Dolph comes out, so it looks like this feud is going to continue. I'm happy about that because I can watch these guys in the ring all the time.
Yeah.
Daniel Bryan eventually came out, makes the match for No Mercy. Miz says that the IC title will not be defended if he doesn't get what he wants, and then he and Maurice leave going through the crowd.
Perfect.
Yeah, I like that. That was great.
So Hill.
Yeah.
I like it. I like that it's giving. This goes back to my point. It's kind of giving a non-wrestling storyline.
Exactly.
For people that don't like just wrestling. They need a storyline to go with outside the Miz versus Daniel Bryan. Even if Daniel Bryan keeps throwing guys at the Miz to try to beat him, it actually works opposite of when it's a heel big guy trying to do it to the face. It's a face trying to get rid of the heel as the champion.
Yeah.
He even said it on Talking Smack that he hoped. He's like, I hope the Miz lost.
Yeah, that was the only thing though. The only logical problem with this is Daniel Bryan. All he has to do is go, okay, well, I'm stripping you of the title. That's all he has to do.
Daniel Bryan's the middleman. That's the whole point. Shane won't let him strip him of the title.
Well, if can't the general manager strip you of a title?
He can try, but not if your commissioner, who is your direct boss that is right there every show, says you can't do it.
Yeah, true.
Remember when Stephanie tried to fire or suspend Seth and Miz got it, and Mick Foley got in there? It's like, it's kind of funny because I hate the whole commissioner GM dynamic just because you pretty much have two authority figures and they like each other, and I don't like that.
Yeah, I can.
Two authority figures, one should be heel, one should be face.
And maybe Shane will go that way, especially which they keep hinting at dissension during the Talking Smack.
Yeah.
We then had AJ backstage. He approaches Baron Corbin, asks him to be his partner. Corbin tells him he wants the belt. This was bad because Corbin just stinks. And let's segue real quickly into Corbin's part on Talking Smack. It's just not working, man. It's just, I don't know. It's something about the way his. Can you explain it?
He does not. What is it? The way there's no inflection in his tone. There's no passion behind his voice. Everything he says is what I want his character to say, but he doesn't sell it. That's the big thing. I want him to say, I just want to beat people up. I like to hurt people. I want the paycheck and go away. I don't like fans. I don't like you. I love that. That's a great, great character. I think sad part, Goldberg pulled it off. Because it's kind of a Goldberg-esque character with a little more attitude.
Right.
But he can't pull it. He's not selling it. I'm not getting that passion. It's like Paul Heyman talked about, like, he would get someone in a character and then they would talk to him and then he would give them this extra thing that they had to do to really get the character over. And he's whatever that extra thing Paul Heyman would do, he's missing. He's just everything about him says superstar. Everything about him says badass.
until he opens his mouth.
He can't make me believe it.
Yeah, and some of it I think is just the way his voice sounds naturally.
Yeah.
And and definitely the scriptedness is not helping him because he sounds so robotic. Yeah. He wasn't quite as bad during Breaking Ground when he was just talking, but he's also kind of a cringy douche. So.
And I think most of it goes to the fact that the character he wants to portray, the character he built up, and it seems like this is a character he's wanted to portray all his life, isn't who he is. Just that simple.
Yeah.
And it's like he can't portray something that he's not because he just doesn't have the acting chops to do it.
Exactly.
So maybe acting classes. I heard they sent Roman Reigns to acting classes. Maybe that would help, but it's just like it's a very simple character. I just need you to make me believe it.
I concur. Which this took us to Baron Corbin versus Apollo Crews. Match that didn't actually happen, though. I will say I was amazed. Apollo came out not smiling.
I think it's setting up. I truly think it's setting up an attitude change, almost heel turn for Apollo, if not all the way heel turn, because they are purposely making him bland, and that only can be setting up something.
God, I hope so, because he is so ridiculously good. He's better than this.
Yeah,
and
he's like super athletic, boring guy.
Exactly. And so he was laid out by Corbin, and then Jack Swagger comes out. I don't really think anyone cared. And Jack Swagger cut a promo, and he still did the We the People thing, but he was saying, I forget what the shtick was. It was new. Yeah. It's new shtick.
Yeah, basically that he's this badass that's been held back, and now that he's on SmackDown, he can let his talent out. Which is I might be the minority on this. I love Jack Swagger, and by that is I think he's kind of fixed his lisp. He's taking care of that. So he's this big, athletic. He can work. You know what I'm saying? And when I say he can work, I don't mean AJ Styles level work. To me, as long as you're not hurting people and I buy what you're doing, you can work. You know what I'm saying? I'm not saying you're a great worker, but I'm saying he can work. He doesn't hurt people. He's definitely not dangerous. He's believable because he's so big. And all-American wrestler. It's just...
He's an Okie.
Yeah,
he's from here in the great state of Oklahoma.
You know, and honestly, that's the least of his attributes that I care about. But he got stuck with Zeb, and then Zeb left, and it was like, I don't know what to do. I'm hoping they really do push him as a wrestler, like he wrestles people more. And I would love this whole feud with Baron Corbin if they decide to go that way. Because it's just two big old boys just going at it. I like that in wrestling. And like I said, I just think Jack Swagger, he doesn't have, I don't think he has the it. Like, I would never push him as a world champion like they mistakenly did. But I would push him as a person that's always that next step away being a world champion, because I think he can pull it off. And I just don't know why he's been off TV so long. Moving him to SmackDown was perfect because the roster's thin. Right. So you need a good wrestler. So he's a good wrestler.
Yeah, I agree with you there. I think his lisp has held him back a lot, and it comes out a little bit, but it's gotten better. And I agree with you. I don't think he's a terrible worker. I think he's a pretty good worker. I would like to see him in some different ring gear. I don't think the singlet does him any justice. And in fact, there are very few people that can really pull off the singlet, I think.
Yeah, I hate it on Bo Dallas.
Yes. Bo looks awful in that. The Steiners looked good in singlets. American Alpha looks good in singlets. Kurt Angle looked good in a singlet. Why? Because they were all amateur wrestlers.
Yeah, but Jack Swagger was an amateur wrestler. He was All-American.
True.
But he doesn't look good in a singlet.
No, because he's Sasquatch.
And I was saying, and he's very lanky. And they don't put over how big he is enough.
Yeah.
He's one of the tallest people on the roster. I mean, if he's not as tall as Kane is, he's right there.
Dang.
You know? And it's like they don't put off how big and powerful this guy can be. The great thing is he is moving to SmackDown where the roster is a little smaller, so you can kind of maybe pull that off.
Yeah, and he'll be that balance. He'll be that counterweight, which will be good. And he'll be a good foil for a Baron Corbin. And I think it was his first feud against Rusev. I actually really liked. I thought when he was going for the U.S. Championship, I liked that. And I think he's like you. I think he's a worker that doesn't get enough credit. So let's hope it's a new direction. I like that he was just in jeans and a t-shirt and a backward baseball cap, and he was doing something different. The We the People thing is still super over, but I think he should keep that. But just because
about a super hot wife.
Yeah, that's great. So we then go into the number one contender match for the Women's Championship, Nikki Bella versus Naomi versus Natalya versus Alexa Bliss against Carmella. Right before the match, Becky Lynch had an in-ring interview that she got some good "You Deserve It" chants. Becky was at ringside, but not on commentary. And
she's not very good talker.
I don't think she's as bad a talker as people say she is.
Yeah.
And maybe that's just because I like her so much.
I used to say, and that's the whole thing. Becky is my favorite women's wrestler. She is number one, but I can acknowledge she's not very good on the mic. I mean, and it might just be because I remember when she was a heel, she was better. So I think it just might have to do with, when you're a face, it's hard to be entertaining in a box as a face. A lot of the things that The Rock said, I always use him as because he's like the most significant mic guy of our time. A lot of the things that The Rock said were heelish, but he was a face, so they went over anyway.
Yeah.
So.
I'm not even going to lie. This was the part of the show that I watched this morning. So I fast-forwarded through a lot of this match. I did see that Alexa got the win. I did love that final segment where Carmella hit a wicked super kick. The best thing that girl can do is she has a badass looking super kick. It's probably because her legs are so freaking long.
Yeah, she does.
And Alexa just threw Carmella out of the ring and stole the pin on Nikki Bella. I thought that was great. So that should be.
And it goes with the new character that they're trying to build for her because Morrow actually mentions that she is the Harley Quinn of the WWE.
Yep.
So he actually put over that as her character. Yes,
he did. And real quick, let's talk about her on Talking Smack since we're talking about Alexa.
She didn't act crazy enough for me.
I liked it. She's slowly getting there. I don't think all heel women need to either be a bitch or crazy. And
Talking Smack is not scripted, and you can tell.
Yes, and she had a great line where she was talking to Renee, and she said talked about her shirt, and she said it's so Tina Turner hand me down, and I loved that.
Bitchy.
Yes, and then she said, I believe that Carmella is technically insane, and because this girl can talk, she doesn't need a script.
Yeah.
So yeah, that I thought that did a lot of good for her, and I do like you. I like the direction she's going in.
Yeah, she held her own the mic. She is like for everything I thought Baron Corbin failed to get his character over. I thought she did everything to get her character over, and it was in a very subtle, non way where I think, you know what? Hey, she even, she's like, I might not have competed in this ways, but I've been competing my whole life, and I dug that.
I did too. Yeah. You saw AJ again looking for tag team partners. He asked Kane. Kane laughed at him. We then had Shane in the ring announcing Heath Slater for the contract signing. Heath and Rhino came out. This is where we see the Heath's I Got Kids, I Need This Job t-shirt, which is phenomenal. And Heath is talking all crazy, we'll beat anyone anytime, and Rhino's like, look on his face like, motherfucker, shut up.
I do all the work, basically. Yeah.
What are you talking about? And the Ascension come out, and this turns into a match for the titles, which Rhino and Slater win. I admit it, I didn't actually watch this match. Was there anything in the match?
It wasn't anything. Rhino did all the work, and they kind of built that up. I was going to point out this, and then honestly, you could get past this, is if Rhino gets elected in November, he has to leave anyway, so they're probably going to set up a way for him to leave to go focus on this election.
Yeah. There was a sign, I think a Rhino for President sign, and Heath at the very beginning pointed it out to him. I thought that was great. Let's see, what else happened? We then had AJ again backstage. He was this time approached by Daniel Bryan, who said, we found a partner, brings in James Ellsworth, who is fantastic. I love this guy.
His face gets him over.
It does.
It's just like he doesn't have to say anything. He looks completely lost and like he is way over his head.
Yeah. He did an interview on Wrestling Soup, which if you haven't heard it, you need to go back and listen to it. It's hilarious.
He was on Talk Is Jericho this week also.
Okay, I'll have to check that out. I don't listen to Jericho's show very often.
I read the transcripts. I don't listen to it. I think he talks too much for me. He does more of the talking than the person that he's interviewing. So maybe I'm completely wrong, but the couple shows I've listened to, I just got tired of hearing Jericho talk. So I read the transcripts of the Talk Is Jericho.
Yeah, that's it. I don't even do that much. If there's something that is a story that I see on Cage Side Seats or any of the sites, I might read a transcript or something. But yeah, in fact, I listen to every week I listen to about four, maybe 5 wrestling podcasts. None of them are wrestler run. Every once in a while I'll listen to Colt Cabana if he has someone on that I want to hear an interview with, but even that gets a little irritating. I started listening to his last episode with Cedric Alexander and I just gave up. I'll listen to Sam Roberts if he has someone on that I want to hear like an interview with. But otherwise, it's all fan-run shows that I listen to.
I don't listen to any.
Really?
I really don't. None. And what I mean is I don't listen to any regularly. I listened to, like, when I was on the way home on a trip, I listened to Stone Cold's podcast because it was with the Revival, and I knew nothing about them before they got into WWE, so I was interested. But I generally find that most people say the same things. So I don't find them entertaining. I like talking about wrestling. Like, I can talk to you about wrestling. I don't really like listening to people talk about wrestling. If I'm a part of the conversation, great. But I don't really like listening to people talk about wrestling because I have my own opinions and I'm very passionate about my opinions and I want to let them know my opinions and they can't hear my opinions.
Yes.
So, only thing I really listen to consistently, Taz does a radio show from 6 a.m. to 8 a.m. On CBS radio, and I worked 6 to 3, so that would be always on while I was working. So that's it. I listen to that show every day but Wednesdays, because on Wednesdays he does this thing where fans call in and do promos, which I found annoying.
Oh God, that sounds awful.
I mean, it's so over on his show and to his people that will listen to the show. But for me, yeah, it's like these are a bunch of horrible people doing promos. I mean, occasionally there's a good one, and I can honestly say it might have gotten better. I have not listened to it since its infancy.
All right. So. Well, I've never actually listened to Taz's show.
Yeah.
All right. So next we had Randy Orton come out in pants for an in-ring promo. He was interrupted by Bray doing Bray things backstage before magically appearing ringside. And then the lights go out again, and Eric Rowan appears and attacks Randy. Randy hit him with an RKO. No one cared that Eric Rowan was there. They only popped for the RKO, which, again, I'm asking if he's got a concussion, why are they letting him get, pummeled by Eric Rowan, even if for just
trying to hit him in the back, and you saw it and you looked at it. It was very safe the way they did it. They allowed him to do something physical, but he didn't hit him in the head or anything like that.
Yeah.
So it was done very safe, and then he did his RKO. That was really the end of the segment.
Yeah. The Wyatt family desperately needs Luke Harper. They need Luke Harper so bad.
I mean, groups only really work in threes. It's very two-man groups don't really work that well.
Yeah.
And I mean, like, unless you are a tag team, and they're not a tag team, they're just two dudes that hang around each other. So they really do need Luke Harper back. Even if he can't fully physically work, I'd like him to come back, beat up people, and then Eric Rowan takes all the bumps.
Exactly. And when he does come back, I hope they put him on SmackDown with the Wyatt family. And
They
then
have to me.
Yeah. And then he and Rowan can go back to being a tag team and put them in the tag team division. Because as weak as Eric Rowan is as a worker, he's not awful, but he's not really good. He is a really good tag team partner for Luke Harper.
Yeah, because Luke Harper can, take the bumps and stuff.
Oh, Luke Harper's fantastic. He is so underrated, I think. And he's awesome.
In the 80s, he's a main event guy.
Oh, yeah. Oh,
But,
yeah.
Yeah, now in the cosmetic 2010s, he's not.
Yep. So then we have the main event, AJ Styles with James Ellsworth for a moment against John Cena and Dean Ambrose. AJ comes out looking super pissed, and then Ellsworth comes out. Poor guy doesn't even get any music. And then the Miz attacks him and gives him a skull-crushing finale on the...
I love that whole thing.
Oh, yeah, it was great.
Perfect heel. He says, I'm the main event. I loved it. I'm hoping as far as storylines, one of his demands is that the Intercontinental title is only defended in the main event.
Oh, that would be cool.
Yeah, so it's like you have the world title and then ending with the Miz's match just as part of getting at Daniel Bryan.
That would be good. That would be very good. Of course, though, at the end of the day, the real reason why Miz was put in this match was to eat the pin.
Mm-hmm.
And something I did find very interesting watching the Miz and John Cena work together. It's like the epitome of everything that was bad in wrestling for so long, because it's so soft and so gentle, and they're cuddling each other. But you put them against other people, and it looks good.
Yeah,
you get those two together, and it's like, oh, this is what happens when WWE completely creates a superstar based on looks. It sucks.
Yeah.
So that was SmackDown. And overall, I thought
the Ambrose taking out Cena.
Oh, I forgot about that. Yeah,
crazy Ambrose. He kind of got booed.
He did.
Then he took out Cena and he got cheered. It's kind of crazy.
He got a lot of boos in Philadelphia, which normally rains boos upon John Cena. So yeah, that was awesome. It was
Dean Ambrose as a champion. He put on a so-so match with Dolph Ziggler, which it's hard to have a bad match with Dolph Ziggler because he puts you over so much. And then, I mean, his reign was a bunch of matches and no good promos or no good segments as the world champion. I mean, when people say he's a bad champion, I'm not basing it on like, oh, were they drawing? It's just there is nothing memorable about Dean Ambrose being world champion.
And actually, when you put it in that context, when I think about his crazy performance on this show, I think you're right. Angry Dean Ambrose is the best Dean Ambrose.
Yeah.
And
even when he said, I'll make your life a living hell, I bought it.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
I completely bought it.
Yeah. So that was SmackDown. I think overall, we'd probably agree. I think SmackDown was a better show this week.
Yeah, it's a better show because they only have to fill in 2 hours, and they fill in that 2 hours really, really well. Raw, they're going to have the CWC, and with the same type of formula, Nitro put on 3-hour shows, good 3-hour shows for 2 years.
They did.
So if they can stick to that formula, the fact that they're only bringing in 6 cruiserweights, unless you're going to take some of the guys from the tournament and bring them in occasionally every week and not just make them main points, it's going to get kind of boring really quick. And unfortunately, they're not going to be able to have amazing matches like every night because then the spots are going to get boring.
Yeah.
The thing about WCW is they were bringing in sometimes some people that were only there one night or 3 months or whatever. They did a great job of cycling out the cruiserweight performers. and then they stuck with their main 5 or 6.
I think we're going to get that somewhat because there's going to be a lot of I think all of those guys are also going to be doing double duty on NXT, which is definitely a good thing because the NXT roster needs it as well.
Super thin right now.
And if the crew, I think we can probably safely assume that the cruiserweights are going to get 30 minutes to an hour of Raw. So,
they should.
And that's that's all they really need. Let's give it a good time so it's not spread thin and ruined. But
my only problem is Michael Cole can't call their matches.
Oh Jesus! Yeah, no.
He's not going to be able to do it. He's going to have to watch the CWC to know what most of the moves are called.
Yeah. Otherwise, everything's going to be a Michinoku Driver or a Blue Thunder Bomb.
Or Dirty Deeds.
Everything's Dirty Deeds. Everything's Dirty Deeds. But we'll get to the CWC here in a second. Let's go through NXT real quick. We had Samoa Joe cutting an in-ring promo at the beginning. Almost sounded like he was going babyface until he called out Nakamura, asked for a rematch. They shook hands. Joe goes to leave. Nakamura's on his way out. Joe attacks him and takes him out. Gives him a rock bottom, which I can't remember that move's actual real name, onto the steps, and Nakamura gets sent out on a stretcher.
Yeah, great, because Nakamura is one of those characters, can't really ever lose. He can't really get himself over in a promo, so you write him off the show for a few weeks and let Joe carry the feud, so it's perfect.
And it's amazing how, his promos are very limited because, English is a second language, but it's still how just simply his charisma gets him so over.
Yeah.
So yeah, that'll be interesting to see what happens when that all is said and done. We then had William Regal looking backstage for Samoa Joe, and then you see Samoa Joe peeling out in an SUV, sticking his head out the window. I don't know if he was saying something, but it was just a hilarious sight.
Yeah.
We then had Liv Morgan going against Rachel Fazio.
I honestly didn't even put this in my recap because it was that not memorable. She did the WWE women's thing. She did a few moves and then did a submission. It's honestly making me bored of submissions because pretty much everyone that comes from NXT does one. So, and then she calls out Asuka, and I'm like, dude, you just put on the most average match ever. Now you're just going to get the crap kicked out of you by Asuka. All right, that works, whatever. Maybe it'll get you over. Maybe you can take some kicks, and they can get you over by not losing as much as I'm thinking you're going to lose.
Yeah, and I don't know anything. Was she in the Indies before?
Yeah, but she was mostly WWE trained.
Because you look at people like Peyton Royce and Billie Kay have a pretty extensive indie background in Australia.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I look at those two and I'm like, okay, this is the next batch of big stars. Why aren't you pushing? And maybe they're waiting to push them because at the moment, everyone's going to die to Asuka. Let's be honest.
And I think that's what they're really doing to get Ember. That's going to be Ember Moon's role after she gets a few more victories, maybe gets in a feud. She's going to be like the person that challenges Asuka.
I can see that.
Because her style is completely different than Asuka's.
And I think, though, they would have a really good match.
Yeah, they would. Because, Asuka I think she can work with anybody because she's had to,
Exactly.
She was in an all-women's organization. Not everybody worked the same style there. But, yeah, it's like 80% of the women's wrestlers work pretty much the same in the WWE. And
at least the ones that were the WWE trained.
Yeah, of course, yeah. Definitely.
We then had Drew Gulak against Hideo Itami. Hideo was coming out all super fierce. This was, I thought, a fun little match. Have you noticed that Hideo, the arm that he had the surgery on, I don't know if it's he can't lift it as much, but he doesn't lift it as much certain ways as he lifts the other arm. And I'm almost wondering, did he come back too soon? Is his arm still jacked up?
I just think he doesn't trust it. With any injury, especially ACL injuries, they don't clear you until you trust the knee. In wrestling, you don't have to go as far as the stringent. As long as falling on it isn't going to re-injure it. They pretty much clear you, and it's like he doesn't trust it yet.
Yeah, I get that. Probably give it a couple more months and he'll be back to his old self. But this was a good match. I thought Gulag was a good opponent for him. So I enjoyed it. Did you have any thoughts on it?
GTS, I am so happy that it's back, and he actually does it better than CM Punk. I know he's the originator of it, and it's almost pointless to say that, but he really, really does it better than CM Punk, and he does it with a fierceness where I truly think he's knocking the guy's teeth out.
Yeah. We then had the Authors of Pain versus a couple of jabrones. Authors of Pain won. I'm starting to think maybe they're screaming in German. Or either German or Russian. I don't know.
I have no clue.
Yeah. Ty Dillinger had a little backstage interview. What do you think of Ty Dillinger?
Perfect for NXT. He's never going to get called up.
I can see that. Hey,
I mean, that's my honest. I mean, that's it. I mean, his music is perfect. He has the little chant. If he ever gets called up again, it'll be because there was a bunch of injuries.
Was he ever called up at any point?
Yes. I forgot his name. He was on the rebirth of NXT. His name wasn't Ty Dillinger, though.
Okay. Oh, dang. So he's been with WWE for a long time.
That's why I can be confident in saying he's never going to get called up.
He seems like a dude who's pretty happy with his role, though.
Yeah.
I mean, he's living in Central Florida. He's probably making pretty good money.
Yeah.
And he gets to work out all day and help teach people.
I was just saying, I'm pretty sure he's one of the trainers.
Okay, yeah, he should be.
He's been with WWE for 10 plus years.
Okay.
Like, he's been with WWE a long time.
It's sad that he'll never get, a push outside of NXT, but he's one of those characters he wouldn't work in front of a non-smart crowd. If you're not a bunch of, if you're not a smart crowd, you're not going to get Ty Dillinger. Kind of like Tyler Breeze.
Yeah, I'm a big proponent of Tyler Breeze.
Me too.
So, I just think he's everything. And I like him in the tag team now because it's something, but I want him to have more.
I agree.
But I feel about him the way I felt like the Brian Kendrick back in the day. And it's just like, the way the WWE does it, he's going to need like a bodyguard or something to kind of get him over if they want to do anything with him.
Probably, you're right. We had one more match this week in NXT. No Way Jose against Bobby Roode. I love that spinny thing Bobby Roode's on when it's for his entrance. I thought that was great.
It's glorious. And No Way Jose and him actually have really good chemistry.
They really do.
I thought that was a really, I ain't going to say it was a really great match, but I thought it was a very solid match that if they wanted to add some emotion to it, it could become a great match if they really wanted to do it.
Yeah.
And they have really good chemistry.
Yeah, they do. And I think No Way Jose is a guy that he gets shit on way too much. I think he's actually a lot better than people give him credit for. He's not great by any stretch of the means, but he doesn't, stink up the joint like a lot of people make it sound like he does. But yeah, they have great chemistry together. I think Roode's new finisher, that DDT thing, is so much better than the pump handle slam.
Oh, yeah.
I'm glad they fixed that. And so, yeah, that was, if this goes anywhere, who knows, but that was another kind of transitional episode of NXT.
Yeah, I mean, of course they're setting up Roode to be the guy after Samoa Joe.
Oh, yeah.
And it's just, if done well enough, I think he could be if they decide to call Nakamura up before WrestleMania, he could be the guy that takes the title away from Nakamura, because he could do it in a very, very heelish way where Nakamura doesn't actually, take a clean pinfall, you know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
Because, I mean, they're building Nakamura up as everything, He's the fact that him and Asuka have both not taken a pinfall bothers me, but whatever.
Yeah, I don't want it to become with both of them. I don't want it to become about the fact that they're unbeaten. Like you see what that did to Goldberg, you see what that did to Rusev, and
did the same thing to Ryback when he went on his streak.
Right, and it's
just
not good.
once you lose, it's like you're considered beatable. That's what I was saying with Rusev, that, like I said, he should rarely lose because it helps his character. And I felt the same way about Ryback. Ryback should have never been a jobber. Ryback, if you were going to make him heel, he should have been the guy that when Triple H got pissed at you, he sent Ryback out and he just destroyed you.
Yeah.
And that would have worked so much better. But Ryback wanted to be so much more than what he was, and he just couldn't get over it.
I think Ryback, Ryan, which now legally I guess he's trying to make his name Ryback, has delusions of grandeur.
Yes, he has an overinflated sense of self. It's a statement I've been using a lot lately, and I was like, I don't know if it's me, deflecting to other people, but he very much has an overinflated sense of self. He thinks he's way better than he is. Yeah. Like, way better.
Yeah, which is probably one reason why we're not seeing him booked on a ton of indie shows.
Yeah.
He's got the wrong attitude, whereas I think Cody Rhodes went out there and he was like, okay, you guys think I suck? Well, here's everyone I want to face. Here's every situation I want to be in. I'm going to make this happen, and you're going to eat your words. Ryback
might be good in Japan just because they like the big hulking American guys.
Right.
So
yeah, he might do okay maybe in England.
Yeah, they might be too stiff for him though.
That'd be hilarious. Some little Zack Sabre Jr. makes him look like a bitch.
Yeah, they work pretty hard there, and that's the thing. Now that we're going into the Cruiserweight show, that's the thing with the Cruiserweight division. The problem with the Cruiserweight division, with this Cruiserweight division, and I think the problem they're going to run into is the matches are going to be so much better than anything else on the rest of the show. So everybody's going to have to step their game up. So we'll see if they can do it.
Which, in the long run, could be a good thing. It's because you think about some of the best WWE pay-per-views have come after really good takeovers, and it's you have these takeovers that are just fantastic, and then it's like the main roster goes, oh shit, man, we don't want to be shown up by developmental, even though it's not developmental anymore. It's basically it's a corporate-owned indie is what it is. It's like those record labels that started out that were part of big corporations but behaved like independent record labels. And that's what NXT really is at this point. It is a developmental, but it's more than that. But when that happens, you always see that next night or that weekend in the WWE pay-per-views, they try a lot harder and they have better matches. And I think some of that's because they don't want to be shown up. So each and every week, when you've got TJ Perkins and Cedric Alexander and Tommaso Ciampa and Noam Dar and Johnny Wrestling and all them coming out and making the rest of your roster look bad, those guys on the roster, most of which who can really go, are going to get fed up and say, we need to start having better matches because these. And I could see them saying awful things like, these little dwarves are making us look bad.
I could see that. But it was like Kevin Owens says his favorite wrestler is Zack Sabre Jr. He says that's his favorite wrestler to watch. And the fact that's kind of cool that he watches the shows. And it's just like, the thing is with a lot of the guys in there, they've worked with Ibushi is 34. He's worked with most of the roster that came from the indie scene. So it's like there is a line of respect there, and they realize they're only called cruiserweights because that's the only way Vince will accept small guys, like really small guys. Even though Finn Balor is actually, he's pushed as like 215, but he's probably under 205.
When the match he had against Reigns and then the match he had against Rollins, he was billed at like 190.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. No, he's straight up like, cruiserweight.
Yeah, he's like 175, 180 then.
yeah, he's a small dude.
Yeah, the demon. Oh, yes. I don't know if you saw my post. He is making an appearance in Tulsa, Oklahoma.
I saw that.
Yeah, I was gonna put that out there for anybody that might not get all the updates. Wizard World Comic-Con Tulsa, Finn Balor and Becky Lynch will be there October. It's the weekend of the 20th, 21st, and 22nd.
All right, so those of you in Oklahoma, if you can, make a trip out there, and
you will get to meet me because I will be in. Becky is on the Friday night and Finn's on the Saturday morning. I'll be at both because I love both of them. And Finn Balor actually had to grow on me. I didn't like him because he was tiny. I have Vince brain sometimes.
See, I love Finn Balor, and I remember.
I just didn't buy him as a heavyweight. I mean, he's tiny.
Yeah, well, if we really think about it, was Shawn Michaels, honestly, he was a cruiserweight.
You know what? It took some people pointing that out to me that he was like 5'9", 190, but he was always billed as 6 foot 215. You know?
Yeah, yeah, which there was no way he was 215.
Oh my God. I met Shawn Michaels and I was like, wow, you're small. And that was one of the things I had to say to him. So,
and if he can become one of the biggest stars this company's ever had, there's no reason why a guy like Finn Balor or Johnny Wrestling or Sami Zayn can't be huge stars. So, but yeah, this Cruiserweight Classic I'm so sad that it's over.
Yeah, I was going to say that's really all I have to say about the show because there's no more adjectives. There's no more, these are the best workers in the world. There's no more Triple H did the greatest thing ever because it's been said. I mean, the matches were great. Honestly, didn't think any of them were any better than like what I've seen before. I think Ced and Ibushi was still the best match of the series, but I enjoyed it. I enjoyed all the matches. I enjoyed the way they told the stories. It sucks that Zack Sabre Jr. and Ibushi both didn't sign with the WWE, so they clearly had to lose, that type of thing. I would like to see if this wasn't going to become if this was a one-time thing that wasn't going to come back to next year, I would have liked to see who Triple H booked as the winner. Because I like Metalik. He does not stick out to me as one of the best cruiserweights. He's good. Don't get me wrong. He can work. But I don't think there was anybody in the 32 that couldn't work.
Oh yeah. I will. We'll let's talk about each match. So the first match was Grand Metalik against Zack Sabre Jr. Grand Metalik was super over, stupid over, and then he starts off the match there was a dive out of the ring just within the first 15 seconds.
Yes, he came out really aggressive, and I like that because he didn't really do that before, and that was kind of setting the tone that this match was more important than all the rest of the matches.
Exactly, and I do think this was the best Zack Sabre match of the tournament.
The dude can work, and he loses me in how good he is. And it's like I watch his matches the second time because I miss subtle things that he does that are so great. I did not get to watch this one the second time, but I really wanted to see what he was like when he had to put someone else over. And he gave it just as hard as he normally would. And I was like, well, I guess Sabre or Ibushi could win, so I was sticking on that. And he just performed so well.
Yeah.
And he sold so well. And how he took the Metalik driver, he just took it like it was
he was dead.
Like he was dead, and it was just like to me that's anybody can look good when they're winning all the time. How you look when you have to lose tells who you are as a wrestler, and Sabre Jr. is definitely high on my list as wrestlers. Metalik put on a really good show, and I will continue when I talk about the finals with him. Yeah,
and I think the thing you had going into this match is the fact that probably everyone in attendance and almost everyone watching knew that Zack Sabre Jr. and Ibushi did not sign. So you really couldn't have either of those guys in the final because it then becomes glaringly obvious. Okay, well, if the final was Grand Metalik against Kota Ibushi, Grand Metalik is winning, or vice versa. If it was Zack Sabre Jr. against TJ Perkins, who's winning because the other person's not going to Raw. So that it made sense that you don't have Ibushi and Sabre in the main event, even though those were the two guys who were probably the favorites to win the entire thing from the moment they were announced. But yeah, this was just a fun match. The in-ring interview I thought afterwards was interesting because they had someone translating into Spanish for Gran Metalik, but then didn't translate it back into English for us. So it's like, can we know what he's saying, please?
Yeah, that was a mistake.
Yeah, that was a little weird.
That was one of the few things that Triple H let get past him, which he doesn't let a lot get past him.
No, and it's, for a guy who spent so much of his career burying people and just being such a WWE mark and company man, you give him a smaller stage and let him pull in the best of the indies, he can put on a hell of a show. Man.
Yeah, he's put on yeah. He is, and he does a great job of letting everyone know Vince is in charge. This is just something he gave me, and I'm just doing the best I can with it type thing. And he is very humble when he talks, which is very much not his actual character, the character he plays in wrestling. So it's amazing.
I wonder how much of that, I think my theory is a couple things. I think having kids humbled him a bit, and I think that the entire experience with CM Punk, I think in the long run kind of humbled him. Because you can definitely tell, because it was after CM Punk that really NXT started in its current form, and he started signing all of these great indie talents. Because there was a point years ago when he was asked about AJ Styles, and he was like, why would we hire AJ Styles? We have a guy who can do flips.
Yeah.
And his attitude is 1,000 times different. He could not have made a bigger change in direction.
And I know it has to be that his best friend, one of his favorite wrestlers, was a tiny dude. Shawn Michaels was tiny. I mean, he's a little taller than Finn and about maybe 20 pounds heavier. That's it.
Yeah, exactly. They then had a Johnny Gargano Tommaso Ciampa backstage interview, which got a huge pop from the crowd. And they both talked about going after the revival, so I like how they were interweaving NXT storylines in this show. I thought that was good.
That was really good.
We then had Kota Ibushi against TJ Perkins. This was a fantastic match. TJ Perkins got the win. Kota Ibushi looked like he was about to cry at the end of it. Like, how did I just lose this? It was
well.
Yeah.
And he left those kicks. He left the whelps all over TJ's left shoulder. That was crazy.
Yeah.
But TJ's wrestled every different style. So he was. I mean, they wrestled pretty stiff in that match when they would strike. I mean, they were clear, just like strikes. And how, like I said, the story that Ibushi was like that close to winning. He was about to hit his last ride powerbomb, and he reversed it, and it was amazing how the ending was really good.
Yeah. Oh, I agree. And it is a shame that Ibushi didn't sign, because it's as great as Nakamura is, as great as Itami is. I think Ibushi's better than them. I mean, he might not have. He might not have the charisma of Nakamura, but he has his own kind of charisma, and he's so stupid good in the ring, just so good. It's just, yeah. It's like, could you just back up a truck with more money? You just give him.
Well, and it had nothing to do with money. He said he had goals that he still wanted to accomplish in Japan.
I wonder if he saw the fact that the Young Bucks are challenging for the IWGP Heavyweight Tag Team titles, and he thought, well, maybe I can finally get a shot at the IWGP Heavyweight Championship.
That would be so awesome.
Yeah, and there's no reason why he shouldn't. They need to. That's something I think it's good that New Japan is starting to blur the lines between cruiserweight and heavyweight. And that's something I hope WWE does, is that they don't make this cruiserweight division hard and fast, that you can see people bleed over. Because I tell you what, we were talking about with the whole thing with John Cena, how, one of these indie guys could have cut a promo on him about, you couldn't have walked the path I walked. TJ Perkins has literally worked in wrestling longer than John Cena. And the
I
dude,
think, yeah, let's say he's 31 and he's a 17-year veteran.
I think it was 18 is what they were saying on the show.
18-year veteran.
Yeah.
And he was homeless, and he was that. And I remember, he was Manic and Havoc and Suicide, or whatever his name was in TNA. He was Suicide in TNA, and then they made him change it to Manic. And the dude could always work. And then he started working under his real name, and he could always work. The kid could work. He can work. He's a great wrestler.
Yep.
It's like Daniel Bryan's like Grand Metalik. The story he told that Grand Metalik said when he was a kid, he used to watch TJP in main events in Mexico.
Oh, that's awesome.
That's crazy. That's crazy. And Daniel Bryan's like, I used to wrestle him when he was like 21 because he's been wrestling that long.
Yeah, he started when he was like 13 or something.
Yeah.
And he had a little in-ring interview afterwards. There were thank you Kota chants as Kota Ibushi was leaving. We then had, Cedric Alexander and Noam Dar had a backstage interview, which didn't get a lot of a reaction, I thought.
Because they know why they were brought in.
Yeah, pretty much. We then had Sasha Banks, Kalisto, Rich Swann, Jack Gallagher, and Bayley were all in front row ringside. I loved Izzy was right behind Sasha, bouncing up into Bayley's super fan, so I thought that was great. And then we had the Noam Dar, Cedric Alexander versus Johnny Gargano, Tommaso Ciampa match. Cedric did get a big pop with some welcome back chants. And then I love the all these guys chants.
Yeah, that was it was funny. It was a filler match, but it was probably better than any tag team match, that you would see on Raw or SmackDown.
Yeah. Ciampa and Gargano get the win, just excellent.
Sets them up to go after the revival.
Yeah, exactly. Then there was kind of I guess it might have been a filler moment. Daniel Bryan and Mauro Ranallo talking, and they talked to William Regal, and then they were joined by Corey Graves, and just kind of, I think, setting up for the finals, and probably, if nothing else, giving TJ Perkins and Graham Metalik a few more minutes to rest.
Yeah.
Because, especially TJ Perkins, because he Welt City all over him. And so that was then the main event, TJ Perkins against Graham Metalik. And so here's something I want to know, and this is very trivial. I see Dolph Ziggler do it. TJ Perkins was doing it. How do these guys wrestle with gum in their mouth?
They're good.
How do they not swallow it?
I don't know. I just imagine they've been doing it since they started training. TJP, I'm just like, Perfect didn't do it. He spit it out before the match. So I really don't know how they do it. It just seems like the shock that comes from taking a bump. You think that would either make you swallow it or spit it out. Sometimes when they hit you in the face, I've seen it used as to accentuate a bump before when they get punched in the face and then they spit out their gum. Like, oh my God, I got hit that hard.
Yeah.
Yeah. I've seen
Was that a tooth?
Yeah.
Yes. One thing I loved about the Mauro Ranallo Daniel Bryan pairing in the calling of this is they would actually call moves for the most part correctly, and I loved how twice in this match they actually referred to a Hurricane Rana as a Frankensteiner.
Yeah. Mauro Ranallo was probably threatened by Scott Steiner at some point.
TJ Perkins got the win. It was another just excellent match. He also was about to cry.
I loved the story they told in the match, though. I wanted to bring this up.
Yeah.
That he was in that leg, he was in the leg hold twice, and he couldn't grapevine the leg because Metalik kept fighting him off from getting a hook. And then on the third time, when he finally grapevines the leg, it's like he finally got the move all the way in. Metalik taps out, and I just thought that was brilliantly done. Very subtle story to the real wrestling fans out there, but it was just done, and it was very legit. And even how he did it, he was about to get the Metalik driver off the top ropes, and reversed the move and then put that on. It was pretty intense.
Yeah, that was, and I loved when when he wrapped his arm around it to get the added pressure
then he
on
started
the knee.
pulling back. Yeah, it was like, this is more than I've done to anybody. So it took everything that I had to make him tap out.
Yeah, and they embraced at the end. Triple H put the new belt on him, which it looked more like a boxing UFC like MMA type belt.
Yeah, and I think it's nice. I really like the belt, and I like that it's purple, given its own color, its division's own color. Yeah, it's like it's going to be the workers' belt. Their job is going to be to get everyone into the show. It's a big, heavy burden to bring in, because fans of the CWC are going to expect those type of matches every week, and you imagine they're going to get a few more time constraints because of being on Raw.
Yeah, they're definitely going to. I will also say I loved the interview afterwards, because TJ Perkins just came off as a humble, great babyface.
Yeah.
But so where do you think this goes? I mean, what I'm hoping for is that they get 45 minutes to an hour, and they get to put on at least probably two matches every week that are really good quality matches that really.
I hope they stick with the 20-minute time limit, though.
Yeah.
I like the time limit. I've always liked the time limit as a storytelling function, as a device that I'm the champion, but you only have this certain amount of time to beat me.
I agree. So
that's a way that you can wrestle, and people can see a match they've already seen and there not be a winner. And, people might not like that, but you know what? You don't always get what you like on every show anyway. So what's the point of, what's wrong with a double count out occasionally, or a time limit draw occasionally?
I hadn't thought of the time limit, but I think that's a great idea. They should be 20-minute time limits. And that's pretty much the shows for this week. I know you did not get a chance to watch TNA. I did not get a chance to watch Ring of Honor or Lucha Underground. But at this point, we've been talking for well over 2 hours. So
I promised a shorter show. I didn't really deliver on that. I did take good notes. I took short notes, but we like wrestling.
We do.
I'm not gonna apologize for how passionate we are, unfortunately, about wrestling. But hey, you can maybe listen to the show in sections.
Exactly. There you go. You can definitely do that. And speaking of, before we get into our top 5 segment for this week, you can listen to the show on iTunes, Stitcher, TuneIn, and our channel on Spreaker. So you've got many different ways to check out the show. Subscribe in one of or all of them, and there are little rating options in both iTunes and Stitcher. If you could, give us thumbs up in there, tell us that you like us, or even give us some criticism. Tell us what you think doesn't work on the show. We'd love to hear from you. You can also shoot us an email at aroundtheringok@gmail.com, and we'll
any topics you want us to talk about, or any ideas that you have that would make a good storyline, go ahead and shoot it to us. You can see we're not afraid to talk about anything, so
absolutely
send that through.
And you can tweet us at aroundtheringok, and that's also the same handle. You can find us on the Facebook. So top 5 for this week. This was, Floyd, your idea, and what was the idea?
Top 5 big man. I'm going like 6'7" or taller. I'm talking, just throwing names out there. Talking Nash, Sid Vicious, Dan Spivey, people that were built as the big men in wrestling. And we both came up with our top 5. I think it'll be a little different, because we definitely, even though we like similar styles, we like kind of different people. And I put one in there just because I had to put him in there, but everyone else are my personal favorites.
All right. So we'll do you want to do your entire list, or should we go each?
Let's go 5 to 1.
Okay. So who's your number 5?
My number 5 was I have to put him in there because the child in me wouldn't let me, Andre the Giant. He was very big, and he was the attraction. He was everything about wrestling. I am more in putting him in. This will be a rare time this happens. Instead of in-ring work, I'm putting it in because of who he was to wrestling. WrestleMania 3 couldn't have happened without him. but he wrestled a very, very simple giant style, and and he wrestled as long as he could. The lovable guy that crossed over with the Princess Bride, all about Andre the Giant.
Yeah, Andre's great. I did not include him on my list. His heel turn when he ripped the cross off of Hogan, and that was some of the most genuine emotion you've ever seen out of Hogan during a segment. I thought that was great. Yeah, he would definitely be in my honorable mentions. And before I get to my number 5, because as we were doing this, you mentioned a name that we actually mentioned earlier in the show that I can't believe I forgot in my list, so I had to make a change. So I have an honorable mention, which is Bam Bam Bigelow.
Oh, yes.
But my number 5 is The Undertaker.
Okay, 5 for The Undertaker. Okay.
All right, number 4, who you got?
The Big Show. People they've seen him over the last few years, and they've seen that, he's somewhat limited. But when he first started, that man could do a moonsault.
Oh, it was crazy what he could do.
Yeah, how athletic the Big Show is, how he's went his whole career and has never hurt anyone. As big as his hands are and as big as everything he is, he's never hurt anyone. He's worked with everybody. He's put Ray over. He's put Hogan. He put Floyd Mayweather Jr. over. He will do anything the WWE asks him to. He does it with a smile. He got caught. He got pulled down to OVW at one point. He was the ECW champion. I just like what the different things he has done in wrestling will go down forever, and people forget how agile of a wrestler he is.
He is on my list, but we won't get to him yet. My number 4 was Vader.
Big Van Vader. Okay. Yeah. Oh, man. What he did in Japan, man. And I cannot say he has never hurt anyone, because he has hurt almost everyone.
I think the better list was who didn't he hurt.
Yes, because he is the reason Mick Foley forgets things.
A question was asked on another show. Which would you rather do, who would you rather? It was, would you rather go to Suplex City or take shots from Vader?
Suplex City all day.
Yeah.
I can control how I fall on a German. Yeah, when he punched you, he just punched you because he didn't know how to pull punches.
Exactly. All right. So who's your number 3?
Number 3, the man of many names before he settled on his current name. I'm going to go with Glenn Jacobs, a.k.a. Kane. Dr. Isaac Yankum DDS. He was in Memphis wrestling. The WWE tried him in so many different characters just to try to get him land. He even played Fake Diesel. And they tried and tried and tried. And they was like, well, why don't we just take this character that's already great and give him a brother? And who could they do? They got him, and they made him gain like a stupid amount of weight. I am never going to say someone that was on steroids, but if you made me think, I'm just saying his appearance, you saw him as Dr. Isaac Yankum DDS, then you saw him as Kane when he debuted. He either ate a crap ton of protein or something. Like I said, I'm not gonna throw anybody on the bus, but he was pretty big when he debuted as Kane.
That he was.
And to wrestle in the insteps that he had to wrestle in. Because what few people may know, he's actually shorter than The Undertaker. And he had to wrestle in steps, so he looked taller than him.
I didn't know that. Yeah, he should have made my list. He did not. So my number 3 is The Giant, a.k.a. The Big Show. I prefer to think of his WCW tenure. Despite how bad the Dungeon of Doom was, there was a War Games match that he, I think, interfered in, and he got into the ring, grabbed the top of the cage, vaulted over 2 sets of top ropes from one ring to the other. He would do top rope drop kicks. He would do moonsaults. It was crazy what this guy could do. Just like you mentioned, I had never realized that he had never hurt anybody, which is kind of unbelievable. But yeah, he was my number 3, so we agree on that one. And who's your number 2?
Number 2. He wasn't very much picked as a big guy, when he became a mainstream guy, but he's pretty tall. Scott Hall, Razor Ramon.
Okay, yeah.
He was Big Scott Hall from Texas in AWA, and when he came to WWE, or he was in WCW first, and then WWF, and then back to WCW. He is an all-around wrestler. How good he is in the ring is very much underestimated. He does not get enough credit for how smooth of an in-ring worker he is. He put on great matches with Shawn. He put on great matches with Nash. He was the worker of the Outsiders. And he always, the one thing I do love about him is that he does always give props to Kurt Hennig for making him who he was. He said he taught him everything he knew about wrestling. And because of that, and his demons and then coming back. But the whole NWO thing doesn't work without the survey. He was the mouthpiece at the early points of the NWO. I mean, he was it. He debuted first. One of the biggest storylines of my time, if not the biggest, which I think it may be the biggest. It was because of Scott Hall. I mean, he made that work.
Yeah. I see, and I don't think of him as a big guy, even though he is a big guy. Yeah. Otherwise, he would have made my list. It's funny, you go back and you look at pictures of him when he was in the AWA, when he was sporting that Magnum TA mustache, and he was so much just bigger as far as his size. His arms were bigger. He was just this buff guy.
They hadn't started regulating the use of supplements, as I like to know.
Okay. Yeah, that makes sense. Well, my number 2 is someone that, even though I kind of buried him earlier in the show, I really like, and that is Sid Vicious. Sid Vicious, I think, was a guy who, when used properly, and Paul Heyman used him really well, you bring him out occasionally, he choke slams people, he gives some power bombs, but you don't ever put your entire company on him because he's not that great of a talker. He's kind of stupid. And he's probably not that great of a worker. He can do a few things well. Yeah. Yeah, I mean, who will ever forget that, hey, can we start this over? No, it's live. Or then the brutal, when he broke his leg on the...
Well, that had nothing to do with him.
No, but that had to hurt. Oh, it just... so yeah, that was... Sid is my number 2. I always did like him. And number 1, who do you have?
Number 1 is the guy that it took me almost 20 years to meet, and I met him last year at WizardCon, the owner of the Streak, and probably 3 of the top 4 WrestleMania matches I've ever seen, The Undertaker. That's why I was surprised he was low on your list, just because what he has meant to WrestleMania in general, how he would come back from basically not working for a year and pretty much steal the show every year. And it was like him and Shawn Michaels matches were epic. I mean, there's no other word to describe it. And I think epic's overused most of the time, but those matches were, you didn't know if, the first time, you didn't know if they were going to let Shawn break the record. He has been everything in the WWE. So you figured that was the last thing they might give him. The second time, you knew he was going to lose, and it was still a great match. And because you knew Shawn was walking away after the match, and it was everything. And it's like Shawn Michaels is like a foot shorter than him, and he sold for him. And then all the times he jumps over the top ropes, the Hell in a Cell matches, he even made the Giant Gonzalez look like a respectable wrestler. He literally worked. He worked with everyone, no matter how big or how small. Never really, he never changed his name, but changed his character. He could work any style. He ended up adding the MMA moves towards his career. I don't think you will find a more complete big man than The Undertaker.
Yeah, no, you're right. As far as the most talented big man, I think it's going to be The Undertaker. He was, in the years I've watched, like during the 90s, I was a WCW person. And so for me, it was still, he was kind of goofy Undertaker at that point. And he hadn't gone to the American Badass and then, turned things around. It was still when his in-ring work was kind of, well, not much. So for me, I wasn't watching during those years where he had all the feud with Shawn Michaels and all that. I've gone back and watched a lot of that stuff. It's really good. But I don't have this long-term emotional connection to The Undertaker. Plus just the fact that I am still, at my core to this day, a WCW guy. And he is if not the ultimate flag bearer of what is WWE. He's one of them. So there's this little part of me that's like, yeah, but you're the other guys. Which is probably unfair. So my number one pick is Kevin Nash. And
he was my honorable mention, so yeah, definitely.
And not because he's the best wrestler in the world, because he's not. He is a damn good talker, though. So yeah, it's the little things. He one time, there were 3 moments on Nitro that just killed me. One time, the NWO was walking to the ring, and he got right up to the camera, and he did the too sweet, and he said, "Right back at you, HBK," before they could cut the mic. And I thought that was awesome. There was another time where he and the Giant and Scott Hall had just kicked all the announcers out of the announce desk, and they were sitting there talking. And he looks over at the Giant and it says, "Is Andre really your dad?" And I laughed so hard. And then there was another time during the Wolfpack era, and he and Sting, I think it was either in ring or one of the interviews at the desk, and he started talking to the Warrior, and he's like, "Let me put this in a way that you can understand." And he basically told this almost nursery rhyme sounding thing about this guy who approaches a pack of wolves, and one of them looks kind of familiar, and he reaches out his hand, and then it gets bitten off. And that was basically a reference, if I'm interpreting it correctly, it was a reference to the past that the Ultimate Warrior and Sting had as partners. So it was those little things that he would weave things into his promos like that I thought were fantastic. Plus, the time that he threw Rey Mysterio Jr. into the side of a trailer.
Lawn dart.
Oh, my God. How he didn't break that poor man's neck. So, yeah, he's up there as probably my favorite. So, and that's not based on ability or anything like that, just overall kind of... And I loved that NWO time. That, to me, I was glued every week. Eventually, it did get old. And then the way he beat Goldberg was lame, and the finger poke of doom was terrible.
Yeah. The biggest credit I give to Kevin Nash, not to cut you off, is guaranteed money. He's made it happen. Even when I met him in Dallas, and I didn't say it because I forgot to. And he did another show more recently for Oklahomania. He did the Saturday night show. And I went up to him and I was like, you know what? I'm not a wrestler. I will never be a wrestler, nothing but a fan. But thank you for getting the wrestlers guaranteed money. I was like, I know it just made sense to you at the time, but the fact that my favorite wrestlers can make a living and not have to worry about getting hurt and not being able to work is kind of awesome. So that's a big thing.
Yeah, that's probably his biggest. That and what he and Scott did with the whole NWO and showing up on Nitro. That was their biggest lasting things that they gave to the business. So that's it. Next week our top 5 is we'll give time to think about it. Top 5 favorite people who use the cutter as a finishing maneuver, and
I can tell you now that even though he invented the move, Johnny Ace will not be on my list.
No, not mine either, because he sucks. John Laurinaitis needs to go away. I don't care that he's banging Nikki and Bree's mom. He just needs to go away. So that's going to do it. Floyd did promise you guys a shorter show, and that did not happen. So hopefully you enjoy it. Floyd,
I'm a dirty liar. I'm a heel. I told you.
Where can people find you online, sir?
I am Twitter at Floyd Johnson Jr. That's where you can come yell at me for the show being longer. Or I'm Floyd Johnson Jr. on Facebook. Again, I like my name a lot. So
there you go.
Everything.
You can find me Facebook, Twitter, Instagram at Oklahoma Lefty. And again, you can find the show all over the social medias at Around the Ring OK. Please give us a like, a follow, all that crap. And we will be back here next week. Hope everyone has a great week. Floyd, you take care, my friend. We will speak soon.
All right, thanks. Talk to you later.
Take care.
Bye.
You've been listening to Around the Ring on the Spark Radio Network.
All you have to do is change your point of view and believe.
Austin 316 says I just whipped your ass. Damn! Woo!
This sucks more than anything that I've ever sucked before.
What? It's for charity.